Hello and welcome to episode 17 of the Sackdown. Today we have G2 Mikyx, definitely going to be G2 Mikyx for the rest of his career. He's already been on the org for 5 years, dominant domestic career, 7 championships in the last 2 years. So, why would you ever get rid of this guy? Known as the best support in Europe. Personally, one of the people that we enjoy watching, somebody who we've rated high going into Worlds multiple times. Some people had you over Keria. I think that Yamato had that as well. Cadril as well. I had you one spot under Keria, to be fair, which I regret heavily at this point in time. But still in that tier, like, is he better than Keria? Is he not better than Keria? We'll decide here on this show. But welcome, Mickey, to the Sackdown. Hope you have a good conversation here. And you were somebody who we actually had back on the Crackdown when we were doing that show. And we talked a lot about your career up until that point, some of like your early days when Yamato used to coach you and stuff like that. And that was right before you ended up transitioning to XL. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this point, because this was a strange happening the way it kind of worked, because you weren't on the team for the first 3 weeks. Then you come in 3 weeks into Spring Split at that point. And it seemed like there was contract issues, stuff like that. Can you talk to us a little bit about how it was to transition from G2 to XL in, I believe, 2022?
Yeah, I mean, it was after the 2021 season. That was the one where we didn't really make it to Worlds. So that was a bit of a disaster. And then, well, they wanted to do contract negotiations at the start of the year. But I kind of wanted to see how it would go, how would the year go with a new roster, because that was when Rekkles was joined, before I decided to, resign or anything. And then we kind of lost Spring, and I think that was also the moment where we actually started doing the negotiations. And I thought that was such a bad idea, because every scrim after that point, whenever we had a good game of scrim, I was like, oh nice, I want to keep playing with this team again. And then if I had a bad day of scrim, I was like, I'm not sure if I want to play with this team again. So I was instead of actually thinking about how we're gonna win our playoffs games, because this was a week before playoffs against Schalke. Instead of thinking how I'm gonna win, I was thinking about my future, or if I want to keep playing with this roster or not. So for sure that was not the best for the mental. But yeah, in the end, I decided to not resign. And yeah, after that, I guess me, Wunder, Grabs, Duff were all on the market, but we all had some buyouts. So that was a bit problematic, because I think most teams could not afford the the big bucks. That was my buyout. So I was also, I think XL was an interesting roster, I thought, but I couldn't really join them at the start of the year because the whole buyout thing. And then there was the whole Twitter, after every team locked in the rosters. Then there was a whole Twitter thing where Carl was like, wow, no one wanted to get Mickey, even though we lowered its buyout to 300k. Why did no one get him? And then I was like, that's not how it worked. And then we had some kind of Twitter drama where I said that's not how it worked. And then he said, I don't know, something oh, my agent must have been trolling or something. He didn't tell me anything. So then my agent sent me a whole chat log of his conversations with G2. And I was like, wow, these guys are trolling. So then, luckily at least, my buyout was then, officially actually 300k or lower. So then XL took that opportunity so I can join them, which in hindsight was still very awkward, because it was not really a player-driven decision. So even joining them, it felt weird because it didn't feel very welcoming. Everyone was like, yo, what's up, welcome. But it's not is that not something that they wanted? And at the start of the year, they were expecting to play with the same 5 players. They had the whole bootcamp in December and all that, where they got to play each other, and they were doing all right apparently. Mm-hmm. So for sure that the first week was a bit awkward. So I guess I spent most of my time just talking with Joey. I think I think he was the reason that I liked staying in XL, or that I liked being in XL for the majority, because he was the one that was actually talking to me and approached me to talk about, I don't know, anything like Pokemon or something,
Mm-hmm.
Because the rest were just they just kind of played their solo queue, didn't really talk to me too much. It was at least the first week, and then I think we went 1-1 or something, and then we went to drink a bit with Mark and Finn, I think.
The vibes. the sack down vibes. We know about this. This is how everything gets done in EU. You just need to go do drugs and drink with your team, and then you end up bonding.
Pretty much. I think that was actually like it was pretty good because then we actually started talking a bit more about how everyone felt or like how the whole process was. So it was also weird for them, but also weird for me. But then after that, I felt like we got along way better. And for me, at least, when I joined, I felt like I was not very good because I still had to get back into shape. Like I wasn't like timing summoners. I was not like doing like some crazy shit. I was kind of playing just fine. So I thought for sure they think I'm like really, really bad, especially like Mark because he was really good friends with Advian. Like they were, I think they were both promoted at the same time. So I thought for sure Mark hates me because he is also like he was a bit annoying, like here and there throughout scrims. You know, he was a bit passive aggressive sometimes. So I'm sure this guy hates me. But then he said like, I don't know. I think you're just like you're so good and like you're so insane, but sometimes you just get bored. I'm like, bro, you have too high respect. Like sometimes I'm just griefing. Like you don't have to assume that everything I do is just good. You know, you can call me out and whatever. But like basically, he had like very high respect. But at least he told me that I thought I was very good. That was reassuring to me. Like he doesn't just think I'm completely boosted and just like griefing them, because that's how it felt from my perspective in the first few weeks. Yeah, and then that kind of the rest of the year was not bad. I mean, then we kind of lost spring, went to Korean bootcamp because I felt like that was the only way we can actually make it to Worlds, or win the split even. I felt that was the only way we could do it.
Turns out there wasn't a way to possibly do it. So, yeah.
It turns out it was not. I mean, when we went to Korea, we also we took MNS together with us because he was a academy player back in
JDXL MNS.
Yeah, so he went to Korea with us because he was kind of like our guide, and also he was sharing some scrims here and there. And then we were kind of deciding if we want to sub him in or not. But I felt like, from my perspective at least, whenever he played, like when his first few games with us, I felt like he was playing very well individually, but he didn't really say a word, and he was kind of just playing like assessed up, like LeBlanc, for example. He was very good at LeBlanc, or like Yon, stuff like this. But I felt like the longer the year goes, I'm not sure if that would improve, like his comms or like his champion pool. Because I feel like when someone joins a team or tries them for the first time, I feel like they would bring out the best version of yourself to try like extra hard to like leave a good impression. But I felt like that was not really the case there, and I felt like it can't really get better, especially from all the rumors I heard from the past, where he was a bit hard to work with. So then I was like, I think Nuke is good enough, and he was actually playing well as well throughout Korean bootcamp and all that. But yeah, then in the end, we were 2-0 against Fnatic, winning the game 3 as well, and then we got reverse swept. Nice.
Nice. I just farmed you for 2 years. The revenge for 2019, brother.
I guess, yeah.
I mean, I think this time was pretty interesting because for most of your career, you have been somebody who like the community is respected. It feels like people have been on your side. Even when you have like in games, people are like, yeah, it's fucking Mickey Hean sometimes, but like he's the GOAT. People give you the pass, because you've played at such a high level. But if I remember the community sentiment and how things felt at this time, it felt like this was the time where you were actually getting some level of backlash because the messaging when you joined XL, it was like, oh, this guy's going to bring the winning mentality. And at that point, you were known as somebody who didn't talk. Like that was like people had the Targamas version of you in their minds. How people think about Targamas now is how they think about you, but like, with hands, I guess, like with skill. And they would say, oh man, like Mikyx, how's he gonna bring the winning mentality? This guy doesn't talk in the comms, like he's not gonna do that at all. And in those first couple of weeks, it did feel like there was pushback like against you. People wanted Advian to remain in the team. And it did just seem like an awkward situation. So did you feel secure when you joined the team? Like, were you like, oh, I'm going to play with this team for the year? Or did you think like, oh shit, if I play bad, we might go back to Advian. Maybe I'm going to be fighting for my job. Like, how did you actually feel at this point?
No, yeah. I mean, yeah, as I mentioned, it was very awkward because I felt like the players would want Advian back, especially like the first week that I joined. I felt like I was playing quite bad. And even the general consensus for that XL year, like reading some comments online, people actually think that was like a very good year by me because we went to playoffs for the first time. But I felt like that year I was like playing kind of bad. But for some reason, people think it was good. So fair enough. You can keep that opinion. But I think if you watch the games, I was like a lot of times I was just playing Yumi. or just being AFK. But I mean, what I did.
I remember you had a banger Tom Kench game. You had like some crazy banger Tom Kench game. I can send it to you after, bro. I got one that like I just every time I see you, I just remember this Tom Kench game.
I remember I had a 0-10 Nami game against Mad Lions. That one broke our team, I think, because we got level 2 ganked by Leoya. He was playing Trundle, and they played the Draven Leona, and we played Lucian Nami. And he did red buff into bot gank, and then we didn't ward for it. So then, yeah, that game we just kept dying. They just kept camping us, like going in between the towers and like zoning us off XP and stuff. It was like completely doomed game. It was still kind of winnable, but after that game, we were talking about it, and I was like, oh yeah, fuck, I didn't know he could like just level 2 gank or whatever. Like me and Patrick were talking about it. I was like, I guess we should vote for it. And then I remember Mark was very triggered that it's like so obvious that he can do that. I was like, so if it's obvious, why didn't you tell us he could do it? You know, like I don't know. And then from that point onward, every single game, no matter what, we voted for level 2 gank. Like if you go and check the games back, every single time on red side, we voted for level 2 gank. That was kind of funny. No, but I think for the year, it did help me because I felt like in previous years in G2, I was kind of just being a passenger, and I didn't really feel like I needed to contribute more to win. But I felt like in Excel, I needed to bring something to the team that will be able to make us win. So I kind of got out of my passenger mindset and tried to lead the team a bit more. So I wanted us to do like VOD reviews every evening. I think that was like during summer, where I was kind of trying to lead that and just like making sure that everyone is on the same page about like draft and stuff. And yeah, I guess in that sense, it was a good year for me because I could give it a bit. I mean, I gave it more effort, so that also translated into the last 2 years in G2, where I felt like I could do a lot more stuff or like speak up more, because before I was always a very quiet person. I didn't really want to share my opinion unless I got asked to. But yeah, I guess that kind of changed in Excel a bit.
I want to follow up on that, but first I just wanted to remind people of those G2 days. Like basically G2 strategy in off-season was basically if you had a 1-year contract running out, if you weren't willing to re-sign, they would just try to sell you. Like they did this to Wunder, they did this to Rekkles, they did this to anyone who didn't want to re-sign for a longer contract. They tried to like really, really leverage you into signing, which is I just wanted to throw that in this. We have that in the episode. Follow up on what you just said now. It's something that me and Dom always talk about. Is it's like some players, if they go into teams to suffer, they come out better. And you kind of mentioned how you had to grow in Excel. It's like you had a rocket ship start, right? You went to finals in the first split in Splice, with me, and then it's like 2017 was also like, especially in summer, was solid, right? You guys went 5 games against G2. And then you had your suffering time, I would say, in Misfits and in Excel. But the overarching question that I'm wanting to ask here is the 2019-2020 Mickey, how much did you change coming back to G2 during this transition period and a little bit of a suffering period? I guess a part of that should be also 2021 as well.
Yeah, I mean, for sure after Excel, I think I brought a lot more of my opinions to the new G2, or I guess pushing people to do more, like outside the game. Like, for example, we did a lot of presentations and stuff, which was our staff's idea, but I made sure that if I did a presentation, it wasn't like half-assed. I just wanted to make it very useful so we can learn something new every time we make it. And I wanted to have the same for my team as well, so we could actually put our time to good use. So I feel like that was something that in the past I would probably not do. I would kind of just play my solo queue and then that's fine. But I felt like I put a lot more effort into watching games, trying to figure out new stuff about the game. And I think it worked quite well, because I think in the last 2 years, I've learned a lot about the game that I would never think about beforehand, because I would never do like much research. I would just kind of play the game, and then, if something in-game happens, sure. But yeah, I think just like some specific interactions, or like how the game just works in general, like some vision stuff. Yeah, I think that
How
was.
about your in-game role? Considering you played with Hans, it's like Hans is like the rumored to be very, very vocal in game. Was that like
Yeah.
intentional, or did your in-game role also develop? Because when I played with you back in 2016, you were very, very quiet, right?
Yeah.
You're very,
I
very
mean,
quiet.
I think usually I kind of adapt to what my team wants or what the team is currently doing. So if Hans talks a lot, I don't really have to do much or like talk much. But for G2 at least, or for Hans, I was kind of just the translator for Yike. So he
Okay.
says, "Go bot right now," or like, "We need to bot right now." I would say like, "Okay, we need to like on this wave," or like, "You can do this camp still, and then you can come like we have time or whatever." I would be a bit more detail focused, where Hans would just be like very adamant or like demanding about who he wants or like when he wants it. I would just be like, "Oh yeah, you can still do like this camp or whatever, and then you can come." Or like in pre-game planning, I had a bit more of a idea. I feel like I could imagine how the lane would play out a bit better, so I could voice that. And then for like mid-game stuff, I would just give more suggestions. Where in the past, everyone else would just kind of talk instead. Like for example, in Splice, we had everyone that was talking besides me and Kobe, I think. So everyone would give a lot of plans or ideas, so I was just following. Misfits was similar. I think Max was talking a lot, so I didn't really have to contribute much there. 2019, we also had like everyone talking basically. And in Excel, I guess Markoon was talking a lot, and then Nuke. I guess that's kind of the time where I started giving a bit more suggestions for myself. So I guess my problem is that I'm not very confident, or like I don't want to like say, "Oh yeah, we should do this," or like "Let's do this right now." I mean, some games I can do it if I'm like very confident in it, but usually I'm just like suggesting, and then we make a decision as a team, which sometimes can take too long. But yeah, that is something that I'm focusing on, I guess. So yeah, for now, for this year's with the roster, the G2 roster, I guess in mid game it was a lot of times either Hans talking. If he was ahead, then he could lead the game, and then Caps if he was feeling it, depending on the day. And then if Caps was not feeling it, then I would be the one to try to pick him up or like get him back to the game to try to ask him questions, so he can contribute a bit. Like, what do you need? Like, how do you want to lane assign? How do you want to do whatever? So I guess that would be kind of my role in teams compared to before, where I was kind of just like playing my game. Yeah.
Okay. So hypothetically, if you joined a team that is like really doing well in early game, but in mid to late game, it's like throwing games in the big matches. How would you feel? How would you approach a team that would suffer from those issues, and how would you see yourself as a solution?
Very elegant.
I mean, still, I would just give my suggestions in the game, but I think I would focus a lot more on discussing out of the game, like how we should approach situations, because I think that's how it should be. Because everyone, at the end of the day, everyone should be on the same page, and everyone should be knowledgeable enough to know what should happen on like outside the game. And in the game, someone needs to say like a short sentence or like a plan. Like, you don't have to describe the whole thing. You just have to say, "Oh yeah, let's play for Drake," and then everyone's gonna be aware of what they need to do for that. So I think that's the main topic that we should discuss, like outside the games, which I think I can provide that knowledge. But yeah, for me, it's more difficult to do it in the game currently, because I don't like micromanaging people or like telling them, "Oh yeah, you should," like, even if I tell them, "Oh, what about this wave?" I already feel bad because I'm like implying that they don't know they should get this wave, for example. So I'm maybe they're doing something with that in mind. But that's why I wanna usually address it after the game, because I think that's
It's
way
very
easier.
innocent of you. Nice. I respect that. Yeah,
That
damn.
makes sense.
I would just assume the worst.
I mean, yeah, for
Obviously, it
the
depends on
majority
who
of my
you play
career,
with.
I just assumed that everyone around me is like way smarter. But then in 2018, I got benched. So then I was like, wow, maybe people are not actually very smart.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
Maybe not everyone is so smart.
You got benched. You got benched for one of the goats. Yamato
That
likes
is true,
likes
yeah.
bringing up the story, being benched for the coach. That's a special.
Yeah, that was also a critical part of a change in my mindset, I guess. Before that, I was not like very selfish in how I want to do stuff. But then I was like, actually, I don't care what the rest wants to do in game. I'm just gonna do what I think is best because people around me are stupid.
Perfect.
Because back in the day when I joined Splice, for example, I was like, wow, everyone is actually so smart. I should just like listen to them. Like everything they say makes sense because everyone was actually very smart. I felt like, so I just listen. I don't have to do anything to win or like by myself. I don't need anything extra or do it my way. I'll just follow what they're saying and then we win because it kind of worked. So
I feel like that's a lot of that comes down to the type of team you join because if I remember correctly, you joined Splice in the second split, right? So you didn't play with them in the first split. So you're like the new guy coming in and you probably felt like, oh, I'm the new guy. They're already like a pro team. I just want to like you'll do my things, play my thresh, like hit some hooks, play mechanically well, and they'll take care of everything else. I wanted to talk to you about getting back into G2 because I feel like that was surprising to me, seeing how everything worked on like Twitter because there was the whole thing. If I remember correctly, you were like, "Oh, the buyout's like 500K," and then Carlos was like, "Actually, the buyout was 250K or like 200K or something like that," and that's what became the back and forth on Twitter. And obviously, there was the drama with Carlos. He was no longer a core part of G2. Going into the next year, but I kind of view that as like the bridge being burned. Like you would never go back to a team like G2 after that. How was it joining back to G2? Was it hard to like make that decision to sign this contract? Because I would feel like after they kind of burned you once, you'd be scared to go back there. Like you'd be cautious at least, I would say.
Yeah, well, it definitely helped that they had a new CEO and I guess a whole new structure.
If Carlos was there, would you have not went back? If he was like the main CEO, would you have not went back?
I think personally, I don't think he would want to have me back. I think his ego would be like too hurt if he would try to get me back. I just can't see it like as a possibility that he would want me to be back.
If he was down, would you be down?
Yeah, sure. I don't mind. Like as long as it's my highest chance of winning, I don't care.
It's the Caps magic. That's the Caps magic right there. He builds bridges.
Because I just have to make sure that the same situation that happened can't happen again, and that's it, So I just make sure that can't happen again, and then bam, then it was like no brainer. Because my second option was also I think very exciting for me at least, because it was just an Excel probably, and I had a lot of freedom to do like what I wanted to do. But on the other hand, I was like, I could just go to G2 and probably just win, like for free. So I kind of just took that. Yeah, it didn't seem like a crazy decision or anything. So I was like, yeah, makes sense. And yeah, it kind of worked, at least Europe-wise.
Definitely. Yeah. Something that we spoke about with Jankos, and it was kind of surprising because, like in the transition to 2020 to 2021. The way Jankos talked about it is that he was ready to just go back at it again. And that whole situation was kind of strange from outside too, because I was like on the Fnatic end, and Rekkles was basically holding all of Europe by the balls. Basically, like the whole market was like frozen. All AD carriers were just waiting for Rekkles to choose whether he goes to G2 or Fnatic at the time. Internally, from your side, especially since you mentioned like leadership in game is forged outside of game. Perk seemed to be a character that did a lot to push you guys as a group. In that off season, how did it go down from your side? Because you had to play with the pairing. Did you want to run it back? Like how was the 2020 to 2021 off season for you?
Oh yeah, because you mentioned with Perks also being like a big like leader in terms of fixing shit. I took a lot of the things he did into Excel as well. So I tried to do the stuff like talking to my teammates one-on-one whenever I saw that something was wrong or something like this, which is something that he did very often, which I liked a lot. So that's another thing that I forgot to mention from Excel. But yeah, so 2020 off-season was a bit weird, right? Because, Perks wanted to go, and then I was like, sure, I guess. Like, I wasn't like too against it. I was like, whatever. Like, because I feel like by the end of that year, I felt like I was getting a little bit jailed on the champions. Like, Luca was very adamant about what I should be playing. So like Nautilus, Leona, Rakan maybe. But me as a player, I like to, branch out a bit, have a bit more freedom in what I can play. So when he was like, "Yeah, I want to peace out," I was like, "Sure, I don't mind." And then, yeah, well, in hindsight, probably was not the greatest, but there was like a few different options that we wanted to explore. One of them was Hans, for example. And then one of them was also me on AD carry. But then when I said that, when we discussed it, Janko just started like mega laughing. So I was like, well, I guess we're not doing that.
Okay.
Who would you want as
Yeah.
support? Just Mickey
Hilly.
bot lane?
Yeah,
Sure.
Hilly.
For some
I feel
reason,
like-
when I think of, do you remember that I mean, you definitely remember because you were in the game. Do you remember that Caps game where he was playing Aphelios and he like set the
Yeah.
record for deaths at 15 minutes? That's kind of how I envision you playing AD carry. Like if I were to sit there and be like, what would it look like? That's just, I feel like you would not, you would want to keep on fighting. That's how I feel like. I feel like at some
possible,
point
yeah.
you wouldn't be like, I just got to farm for my 2-3 items. That seems like a little boring for you.
No, I can see that as well. But I also think I would be able to dish out a lot of damage in the fights. I'd be playing
for
on the
sure.
edge. And I think it would be like very fun to try a new role. Because Perks
that
and
would
Caps
be
both role
banger
swapped,
to
and they
watch.
always said like it was so fun to just like swap and play a new role and learn everything anew. It just feels very refreshing. So I wanted to kind of try it. So for 1 week of solo queue, I just played only AD carries, and I was doing kind of well. I was like, maybe I can do it, But then we told Jankos, and then was doomed. Yeah, then that dream kind of went away. But yeah, because I thought at least I already play bot lane, so it's not gonna be that difficult to transition to the other bot lane role because I know the matchups, I know like how people should play in theory. I just need to be good mechanically on the champ, and then it's all good. Yeah.
How much legitimacy was there to like the claims that you and Rekkles were just too incompatible in terms of personality? Because the whole idea was that he's a quiet guy, you're a quiet guy, and together, there's just not enough communication in the bot lane. Like you kind of need somebody to be leading the bot lane. That was the outside criticism. Was there truth to this?
Yeah, I mean, I can see that for sure. I think both me and him were very quiet people, or like basically, we don't want to have resources for our lane. So like, I don't want to tell my jungler to come bot right now, drop all his camps, and come fix my lane, or like to come bot lane, because if he comes bot lane and then we waste his time, if nothing happens bot lane, we don't actually get a lead. It feels really shit for junglers. Like, you can see his hit game is fucked as hell. So both of us would probably just try to salvage.
Then the jungler has to say something passive aggressive back. Like, I'm really far behind now. Just say something like that, and then
example, and I'm like, nice. I'm for sure calling you again. So yeah, I mean, for sure we were not very vocal in what we needed, especially in the game. Maybe after the game we will talk about it a bit more, but in the game, which usually is when you have to be vocal or demanding, because the game differentiates a lot and there's a lot of different situations. Yeah, I guess we didn't really do that. So yeah, and Rekkles really wanted us to play around Caps all the time. So because he was our best player. So then our strat was just to push 2 waves bot lane, I base, I go mid, or just like I go mid, and I'm sitting mid, and then we're just bouncing bot wave back and forth, and then he's just catching and pushing, and then I just be there on the cover or like on the bounce. And that's kind of what we did to solve that issue, I guess. But I think at least like summer split wise, I think we were doing better. Well, actually, I think at the start we were doing very well.
Summer, no? You guys
I think
crazy.
No, Senna was banned, Burma. Spring we played a lot of Senna. And at the start of spring, I think we were very good together. Yeah, that was the Senna Sion split, for example. Mm-hmm. And then there was this period in the middle, like between spring playoffs and then maybe start of summer, where I think we were very bad together. And then by the end, we were actually doing fine. And then I guess we had the game against Fnatic when we played pretty bad again. I think that was the last game we played together. And I think that was like what people remember, like us both flashing for the bike hook, for example, which is pretty bad, right? But at the same time, yeah.
Hilly had crazy aura in that series. Like I just remember like the way that Hilly Pike worked was he would just lock it in, and like bot lane was just guaranteed to die or lose all their flashes level 1. Like it was just impossible for any other situation to happen. Not just against you guys, against like everyone. Like it made no sense to be watching from the outside.
I mean, for me at least, that game I knew that like we were just not on the same page. Where And basically it was like, yeah, bot lane was doomed, so I just needed to roam mid perma. So basically what happened was there was one game we played the Braum versus Pyke. I think it was maybe game 3 or something. And Pyke walks up level 1, misses his hook, and I land my Q on him, and he's like kind of in the middle of the lane. So I'm like, okay, go kill him or like force your sums. And then Rekkles didn't want to go, so I'm like, okay, then I pressed exhaust on Pyke, so he slowed. So we make sure we go, and if it didn't go anyway, and then he just got away with me wasting exhaust and him wasting his Q. And I was like, yeah, well. And then I think that afterwards we just got fucked. But then I was like, yeah, I guess we're just not really on the same page. So that was a rough one. Then we lost. Zix.
Yep, you guys lost. It's funny. Our histories are kind of connected. I've always, when we have guests on, I'm thinking back to the series that we played. I remember Vitality versus Misfits, 2021,
Oh my
2022
God.
reverse sweep.
We've been driven against Stella.
There's some horror.
Oh my
horror
lord.
best of fives.
Actually, yeah.
It
Somehow you
means-
guys mind controlled us to ban Draven against Attila when we have
Yeah.
Hansama on our team. That was crazy. I could not believe it.
It was like a big plan. So basically, we practiced Draven to play it against you guys in regular split. It was
Yeah,
like
we
a
did
very, very like long-term plan.
And they're all level 2 or something.
Yeah. We like split map into dive. Like we played like Trundle, Thresh, Draven, something like this, and just dove you guys. It was a good time, guys. Being your most comfortable self this fall starts from the waist down. Whether you're gearing up for the weekend spent on the couch watching endless hours of football or League of Legends, or getting back into your gym routine, comfort is of course king. That's why this fall, I am personally upgrading my underwear drawer with MeUndies. MeUndies has something for every guy this fall. Their micro-modal fabric is breathable and comfortable, especially the damn ball caddy. If you never thought you needed a special pouch for your parts, think about your life, man. Take the hundreds of 5-star reviews as your sign that this could be your new favorite boxer brief. Dom, tell me about your experience protecting your sack.
Oh, it's super important to protect the sack. The ball caddy is actually great technology. You wouldn't think the technology would come into play when it comes to underwear, but underwear can be a very important part of your day. The material feels nice, it's breathable, and it is something that I am happy that we're sponsored by here on the Sack Down. So go get yourself a pair of MeUndies, and Yamato will tell you a little bit about the code and how you can do that.
Of course, MeUndies, they have styles for everybody. They also have versatile loungewear, not just underwear. You can be comfortable with some joggers, hoodies, onesies, and of course a lot more. There's of course unmatched comfort. Something that is super, super important as well is that every material in the process is just responsibly sourced. Make sure that the impact on the environment is not a good one because you are protecting your own environment, And then, of course, the problem-free philosophy. If you don't like your first pair of, undies, no problem. The first one are on MeUndies. So be your most comfortable self this fall with MeUndies. Get 20% off your first order plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/sackdown. That is MeUndies.com/sackdown for 20% off plus free shipping. MeUndies, comfort from the outside in. Something I wanted to ask you, Mickey. Often the community is very results oriented in terms of evaluating skill level, but even 2020 you guys obviously there was no MSI because of COVID, but you guys lost against Damwon in the end, and Damwon was really fucking insane at this tournament. How would you compare the 2 years in terms of the level? Because 2019, of course, you won MSI, you beat T1 in a beautiful fashion, but then somehow you played against Team Liquid in the finals. How do you feel about the comparison in terms of level?
Because NA beat world champion IG.
That's right.
Yes,
They did.
Yep.
I did that. I mean, from my perspective, I think we were better. So I think 2019 we were better because we had a lot more options in draft. I felt like we just kind of played everything, and we were just flexing stuff and just doing some crazy shit. Where in 2020, I think we played a lot more standard, but I think we also started playing better as a team, especially when Caps was up to AD carry. Start was a bit of a rough, but then towards playoffs, we started making a lot of good plans for how we should play the game from start to finish. and it kind of worked very well. I feel like if there was an MSI happening in 2020, I think we would have probably won that. Like I think we were so good. But then summer and afterwards throughout Worlds, I felt like we were fine. But for me at least, I thought, like if you ask Caps, he's gonna say that we were way better in 2020. But for me at least, I felt like we were kind of bad. And yeah, I felt a lot more confident in 2019 at least. Because 2020 was a bit of a rough year. And
is that not just because Caps was playing better in 2020 and in 2019 you guys were playing better bot lane and like
maybe.
bot lane, they had some issues like that? Seems logical from my point of view. But is there more to it?
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
I guess. But for me, I just thought like when we lost to Damwon, I was just thinking like, yeah, probably could have won it. They were just like that much better. Like I was even surprised we got the semis. But at least scrims were going better than the previous year because we were winning against like Suning and Top, I think at the time, which was the other top 4 teams. But yeah, overall, I feel like it was kind of a shit year personally. But 2019, I thought we were just like good, and even though we were like losing the scrims, I felt like every time on stage we were just like so smart or like so good. But yeah, it could just be that we were a lot better bot lane, yeah. Or like the meta fit us a bit better, I guess, because we were kind of playing Yasuo, Gragas, we were playing Zyrokan, some Kai'Sa lanes, all that shit.
I can say from on the other side of the pond, it's like I was in LCK during summer, right? And it's like some of the teams, like especially scrimming against Damwon, like I get always the impression every year that if there's like good teams like dominating, they kind of just look at what you do. I do feel like the LCK teams, a lot of them, especially Damwon, were inspired by what you guys did in 2019. Because scrimming against them, they would just play very, very random shit with an idea in mind. Random in the sense that there's champions that we never saw. Like I remember, like Pantheon support is like a mainstay, but we got fucked by them playing Pantheon first time on stage, and we got completely annihilated by it. And we're like, oh, damn. And then in scrims, they were like very, very loose, playing like 6 different champs in every game. But then when we scrimmed against like Genji and T1, it would be like Renekton and Gnar and the Azir, just like repeat same champions over and over again. So I think there was definitely like 2019 moving to 2020. It seemed like some teams took inspiration from what you guys did, and also the Drake changes made the game a lot more, I would say, structured, where you guys thrived in, I guess, a lot of the chaos. Something that's been on my mind, I remember 2019 specifically, this was when like Promiscu was your sub, right? And you had the injury, and we spoke on the Voice of Imara about how you managed to get over your pain. Have you heard the story, Dom, how he got over his pain?
I remember hearing it, but I don't remember what it is. When you say it,
can you share it again? How you got over your pain?
Well, basically,
the question later.
ELDR is I tried a lot of different shit, and then I was mega desperate. So then a fan linked me like a PDF file of like a book that I read. It's called Pain Free for Life, and then it was basically just about stress influencing your physical pain and all that. And then I read it, and then the day after, it was kind of much better. And then a week after, it was gone. Like the pain that I had for like 2 months before that, it was just kind of gone. Because, I mean, in a sense, it kind of connected with the 2018 in Misfits being like a very stressful year. That was the first time I got bench and all that, and it was quite rough. So I can see how after that, I started developing like wrist issues and stuff, because a lot of it was just kind of just mental. So yeah, that kind of went away and been fine ever since then. But it was kind of random.
So do you think that if, let's say, the team that I dislike the most ended up winning Worlds multiple years in a row, if I read this book, do you think it would help me get over the pain?
No, probably, yeah.
Okay, all right. I'll give it a try. Because times have been tough over here.
Fair enough, yeah. I can see that.
So your body just kind of manifests trauma in the shape of pain, and as long as you don't like address the underlying thing, you get used to the pain, so it's always there.
Yeah. As long as you're not like scared of it, or I guess, or like, because I was very stressed about like, oh yeah, it's just like the end of my career. I guess I'll just have to retire. Like I don't know how much longer I'll be able to keep playing, because well, I didn't play for like 2 months or something. That was before MSI, and then I guess after a while I started playing. Like I played for 1 week, and then we just played on stage, and then everything was fine, and then nice, we won. That's crazy.
What I wanted to ask in regards to this was in your case, like I knew you as someone that grinded the shit out of the game. You enjoy the game a lot. You grind the shit out of the game. Do you think there was a benefit in you playing a lot less and just getting a fresh perspective? Because in the end, I felt like 2019, especially during that period, I thought that you were playing like really, really, really insane, even though you practice a lot less, especially in spring.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I was thinking about as well, where I felt like I was playing better because I didn't try to do extra stuff. Because the more I played the game, the more I felt like, oh, I can do this and that, so I can min-max some random stuff, I can like limit test. But then when I was not actually playing the game much, I was like, okay, I just have to not like grief it. I just have to play normal. And then also watching the team play without me was also a good different perspective to see what
It's really
is actually
eye-opening.
going bad. Yeah, it was like a lot different. So yeah, I mean, as in a sense, I think it for sure helped. But yeah, I wasn't very confident in my abilities when I was, coming back to starting playing again. But just everything just made a lot more sense because I don't know. I guess I was not playing on instinct as much. I was actually just like trying to think more about what is actually going on in the game. Because yeah, when you actually take a step back and just look at the game, you can see how grief something is that someone is doing. And then when you go back into the game and playing with them, you can kind of tell if something is very grief or like, yeah. So yeah, it's pretty good, I guess, to take a break.
I see. You are one of the few players that have gone like very, very deep into like the World Championship, right? With your semis and also in the finals. A conversation that me and Dom had on like pushback and so forth is like how T1 is a very curious case because obviously like they have very good individual players, and I think that's the entry point for doing well at the World Championship. But T1 now has had like quite weak summers, and then they've done very, very well at the World Championship. In terms of what makes the World Championship unique in terms of like practice and the big like waiting periods and the chaosness of it all, kind of tie it to kind of like Faker's injury too. This is like the first time in the year where he seems to get like a proper break, especially between the games. How do you view like competing at the World Championship in terms of how different it is in terms of MSI or like regional play, in terms of how chaotic it is, and also in terms of the prep work in between like quarters and semis, because you don't have a lot of scrim options?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure if I like having the break in between too much, because I'm actually it's fine, because then you can actually pick up some stuff, like in theory, like because usually there's like some kind of meta that develops in like group stages and stuff, and then some teams are not very adaptable or they don't pick up stuff fast enough. For example, at MSI, when we were practicing for MSI this year, no one really played like Senna in our scrims. And then we're like one day before stage, and then apparently everyone in the world just prioritized Senna very high. It's like, oh, what the fuck? I've never played against that. So we just had to ban it for the whole tournament, basically.
Yeah.
And then I guess Lushanami was kind of similar in that regard. So that was a bit awkward, because if we had like a week break in between, we could probably pick it up or try it at least. But yeah, I mean, I think it also is. I'm not sure if I would say it's good for like most teams that there's like a break in between, because some teams are very meta dependent. I think T1 maybe not as much. I mean, I guess the only meta they kind of struggled was the AD carry mid lane meta. I guess that was Summer Split, right? Where they were not as good. But usually I think they're good when they can just kind of pick their own stuff. Like I think Keria was doing way better on like champs like Pyke, Bard, all this random stuff, or like Renata compared to like Rel or Leona, which was like
for sure.
I don't know, like when we played against him, he played 2 games with Leona. We kind of lost, but I feel like he was kind of just there.
I mean,
He
you
was
killed him in lane like in pretty egregious way,
Yeah.
like level 3. I mean,
like I wasn't.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was like crazy or anything. But then I was watching him play like actual Pyke Bar champs. He had like a lot of impact in those at least.
Mhm.
But I'm not sure if the break impacted anything like in terms of that, because I feel like every team that won Worlds so far had some kind of like their own way of playing the game. Like they kind of shaped the meta by themselves. Like last year, for example, they played just like Varus, Ashe, kind of double AD carry lanes. Then the year before, they had a Heimerdinger support, like Beryl, I think was out the year before.
Yeah.
And then, like for example, with FPX, they play like Nautilus mid and stuff. So I feel like whatever team kind of sets the tone, or like they have their own playstyle and they kind of play it well, that one usually wins.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I mean, I think actually the week break makes a difference in terms of that. But yeah, I'm getting a phone call. 1 second.
That's
Yeah,
oh, he's answering.
What's up, Sam Matthews? I mean, what? Hey, who?
my dad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, what's up?
Sam Matthews is his dad.
That's crazy. my man's answering the call.
Yeah, hold on.
We allow it. This is first time for everything, though.
Well, this is a Mikyx special. I respect
fine.
that. That's,
You said it was offline, so it's whatever.
No, we have to leave that in number one. We're not editing that
We're
out.
leaving it in.
Yeah. Number two, it shows me the confidence you have now, because I feel like you wouldn't answer that call. You know, if this was 2018, would you answer that call?
I mean, if it was not my dad, I would probably not answer. But like, I don't know, maybe it was something important. Usually, it doesn't call me, so I just picked it up.
No, I respect. I like that. Respecting your elders is super important. I respect that.
Yeah.
You know,
If it was like one of my friends, I would like fuck that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think people should respect everyone who's older than them all the time. No,
I agree.
Bro, I have a follow up. I have a follow up because there was a specific part of that question that I wanted to hear out. It's like quarters and semis. There was 2020 and also, of course, 2019. In terms of who you like practice against in the in between, you mentioned top esports and Suning. Like your preparation towards the finals. Like who did you guys?
Oh, 2019.
Yeah, 2019.
I guess we played some ERL teams. I think there was like, I don't actually remember it myself, but I heard from my other teammates that we played. I don't know which team we played, but they just played like Zed and some shit. Like that was like completely useless practice. And then we just said like, nice. And then there was one day before we played on stage, and then we playing against like Nautilus and stuff. And I think we banned it even. But actually, not game one. But yeah, basically we had pretty useless practice, but there's not really anyone else to play besides ERL teams, yeah, because most Worlds teams just stopped screaming after they eliminated. So the only ones actually practicing are ERL teams that have like their own winter cups and stuff. So yeah, I guess that's who. But I guess if we were in Korea and China, I'm not entirely sure who we would practice. Probably just some amateur teams there, or I guess people kind of prepare for the next season already before. So maybe in some of those, because I heard people played the Griffin and Damwon before, but I guess they were not.
Yeah. It was
I'm not sure,
Korea, the finals in Korea, because it's so weird how different like practices. It's like you have McDonald's teams or you have Griffin and Damwon. It really reshapes things. It's funny how practice changes, because in the end, maybe like DRX, for example, 2022, they just didn't practice at all. They just went sightseeing and played solo queue. That's what they did before the finals against T1, which is pretty.
I guess
because it worked.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think usually you like the last week before the finals, you probably will not like improve or something before that final. I think it's something if you want to try some specific champions, but yeah, other than that, I think it's not as valuable, I guess, to get those games in. I think just if you want to try something, it's fair enough if you need to have something prepared for the final specifically. But other than that, yeah, I guess when we had at MSI, we didn't really have any breaks in between, so we just kind of played like IG, and then they lost to Team Liquid, and then we won against T1, and then the next day we just played Team Liquid, right? I think that's how it went. So yeah, I don't know how it would be to make it to, something somewhere else that is not in Europe at least, because I guess in 2019 we played in Europe, so we actually played European teams. But yeah, and then I guess in the past we also scrimmed, like when EDG was won Worlds, we scrimmed them, for example, with the McDonald's team. So that was kind of fun. I'm not sure if we could get something like that if we were to play like over there in Korea or China. But yeah, maybe we would go sightseeing.
I wanted to ask about the feeling of playing Worlds, because I kind of have so I've heard from a lot of players, people have talked about the fact that it feels like very quick and like almost unfulfilling in a way, because you play and it's like suddenly you play like 2 best of 3s. You guys got the honor of playing BLG and T1 in your 2 qualification matches, the 2 finalists of the tournament. You lose them and then you're just out and you're like, what the fuck? Like you feel like you should keep on playing after that, but you're just done for like the year. So is like Worlds a weird tournament in terms of like the amount of games you play? Because it does feel like a lot of people are shocked when they actually end up getting eliminated. Like it feels like unfulfilling in that regard for a player.
I mean, for sure, if you drop out of groups or Swiss stage, it for sure feels like, it feels unfulfilling, yeah, because you want to play more. But I think, like in the other worlds that I've been to, it didn't feel like that just because the boot camp before that takes a lot of time. Like usually, like in 2016, I think we were like a month before that. We were already in Korea because that was in NA, right? Yamato, you remember? We were a month in Korea before.
Yeah. We were.
So that already felt like a long time. And even though we got lost in groups, it still felt like a very long period of time where we were at Worlds. So that felt exciting anyway. And then 2019, well, I guess we went all the way to the final. So that one felt like very long as well. Like I think everyone was just like burned out by the end. I guess 2020, it did feel a bit short. Maybe, I mean,
Like
I'm not sure.
COVID
Like
lockdown hotel.
yeah,
thing.
I guess that was a bit annoying. Yeah, I mean that one definitely felt very weird, and for me at least, it didn't feel that. I mean, yeah, it didn't feel too long. But I, for example, talking to Caps, he felt like he felt like it was way too short. I think we made semis though, right? Yeah, and then I guess the last 2 years was a bit shorter than usual. I think especially this time because it was also in Europe, and we kind of just played from our office at home. There was no like change of environment or something, so it felt even less special that we were like actually practicing for Worlds. So yeah, it felt kind of we went for the hotel, we were there for a week, and then we kind of lost, and then we were out. So yeah, it felt kind of short all in all.
Yeah,
I guess last year was a bit more. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about this iteration, the most recent iteration of G2 that you're on in 2023, because I think the most interesting part is when this team was formed, before you guys actually had played, there was rumors that you guys were demolishing everyone in scrims, that you guys were, just an insane team. And it felt like you guys really hit the ground running and everything seemed to lock in very quickly. You guys had an identity. You guys were playing hard through bot. You were like playing with Yike perma. You guys were just winning every single bot lane, bringing jungler and just blowing up games and winning games super early and snowballing. How did this end up working so well? Like, because you would think that when I thought like, oh, rookie jungler and Mikyx coming back, he hasn't played with Hansama in years. It didn't seem like it seemed like everything just kind of perfectly aligned. Like, what did it feel like playing with this team? Why do you think it went so smoothly at the beginning? How did this whole situation occur?
I mean, I think it kind of had to do a lot with the way we decided to play the games, which was like Ashe Heimer or like Varus Heimer, and then we played like carry junglers like Graves that just want to invade perma, because I guess we wanted to capitalize on Yike being very good on carry junglers, because that's what kind of he was playing before, like Belvet, Viego, Graves, just like invades a lot and just fight. So we wanted to get bot push for that and just play together a lot and end the games. And I guess watching Worlds as well, I was like, wow, Heimer is like so much fun. Like you actually feel like a champion in the game. Like after 10 minutes of the game, you can actually go around and just one-shot people. It was like so fun. I remember the first stage game we played. I think I was like level 6 at 20 minutes, like Baron spawn. I was like, wait, what the fuck? I'm level 6. And then we won the game anyway because I was like running around and like waiting in bushes to people to one-shot. That was like so fun. But yeah, I guess that's kind of how it worked for us, just because we wanted to utilize Yike's best like strengths, which is carry junglers and invading, and I guess for Hans as well, he wants to push bot lane a lot and just like play with bot pressure. So it kind of just aligned in that sense, and I guess all the other teams were also pretty garbage at that point. So yeah, it didn't really feel like anyone had much to offer. Yeah.
Nice, good to know. Good to know. I would like to hear more about how things really like ended up changing with G2, because last year was all about like the G2 early game. It always felt like Kalista, Draven, you guys would dominate games early, but your like mid to late game wasn't the best. Your macro wasn't the best. And then this year kind of felt like the opposite, where you guys were just perma getting behind. So why did it feel so much harder this year for you guys to secure leads, especially in like summer going into Worlds? Is when I'm really thinking about like how it felt like you guys needed to always come back into the game rather than like start the game with a lead or have like good early game plans.
I think a lot of it has to do again with how we were drafting, because I think last year a lot of our plans were basically just pick a jungler that can do 3 camps into invade, pick a bot lane that can like push and then dive when the jungler is invading. If they like basically we'd be like Kalista Draven, and then with the 3 camps invade. If the jungler's there, we go kill the jungler, take their buffs. If the jungler's not there, we go dive bot. And that's usually how the games exploded, and also why we had a good win rate in scrims last 2 worlds, because people just like widow them and then they FF and like, oh, nice, we won. Go next. And then we did it again. And then the stage people bet Kalista Draven, and I was like, oh shit. Because like, I mean, we were playing a lot of those at the start, but then we're also like, okay, probably he's gonna get banned, so let's play something else. But the other strategies didn't really work as well. And like, we tried like some Lucian, because Lucian was kind of also strong early, but we played Lucian with like CC supports because of his passive, he gets stacks when you CC and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was good early. And then same for Ezreal, I think. But then we lost 1 game with Ezreal on stage. And then we just scrapped that whole idea. And then we just played like hyper carries, like Xayah, Kai'Sa, all that, because that was the meta. Which we didn't really practice beforehand. Which was, not the greatest, but that was again the thing where you have to come in with a certain plan and then just try to make it work to the best of your abilities, because I think some people are too slow at adapting or picking up new stuff. So if you spend the majority or like 2-3 weeks of playing one style, then you want to switch, probably gonna be a bit harder to pick it up or play it as effectively. But yeah, I think this year there was a lot more full clearing, a lot more like AP junglers. You want to just make sure that they have good first clear, like Ivern as well. You just want to let them get away with a little full clear, and then you just like maybe swap some lanes around, play it like safe. I think a lot of the games where we struggled early, especially like summer, I guess, was when I died level 1-2. That was it against Fnatic. That was a bit of a rough one. I think other than that,
the Nautilus Leona matchup.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I mean, that one was mostly just Ezreal being way too OP. But yeah, I don't know. That champ does it like 100 damage with his Q level 1. I don't know. It's crazy because we didn't really play it ourselves much. So yeah, there's also some miscommunication here and there. But in the end, yeah, I think that was the games where I remember us losing early game mainly. I think for the rest, maybe we lost like early game fights, like in mid jungle or something, but I feel like that didn't happen too often, or maybe someone got ganked and died. But yeah, I guess we never really did much stuff proactively ourselves to like early game. We didn't have like an early game plan compared to the year before, which kind of like full cleared, and then jungle gets a lead, and then we can win off of that, play for Drakes, all that stuff. Whereas this year we're just like, yeah, just chilling a bit more, and then if someone gets ganked, that sucks, then we're behind.
Yep.
But yeah, I think with Duff coming in at least this year, I felt like we were much better at playing the game, just like how we lane assign, how well we farm on sides, like how efficiently we catch the waves, or like where we need to be on the map, how to contest stuff, or like vision. So I felt like now, this year at least, whenever we got a lead, I felt like we were better at closing it, because even last year at Worlds, when we won 2 games against Weibo and Damwon, I think, both of these games we had early lead, and then we lost it, and then we just kind of just a flip 50-50 game, like Elder Banger, and then we like clutched some fights, and then we won the game. But I didn't feel like we actually deserved to win. But I feel this year, the games we won, we actually were quite decisive in our victories. So that felt much better. And I guess that also showed a bit during MSI against top. But yeah, I guess that is kind of the main difference, I would say.
I wanted to ask you, Mickey, because now you worked with Yike for 2 years, and from looking from outside, it was very clear what his like role was and what his identity was. I think in 2023, like he was the one playing the Lilia and the Graves and the occasional Maokai and Ivan, right? And I think that there was, certain champions that you could feel like when Yike locked them in, this is going to be like a very, very specific game. In this year, it felt like from outside, it felt like everything was kind of a little bit in limbo, like something that we were very confused about. Because like me and Don, we watch all of the LPL games. Like Lilia was like literally like first picked, and there were certain champions that we would associate with Yike, but they wouldn't come through. there was like that one attempt where you guys picked like Koki brand, I think Leona 1, 2, 3, and then you guys pivoted to like Caitlyn the next game with like Caitlyn, Lucian, full AD with Sejuani jungle. The next game, I believe it was the series was against BDS maybe in. I'm not remembering the team. There was some specific game, but nevertheless, my question is in terms of how you would describe Yike as a player. Like, how would you describe his strengths? Like, what was his role on the team as things were developing throughout 2024?
I mean, I think for Yike, I think he was quite adaptable and like as in he could play whatever champion we needed him to play. Because, like, for example, last year when Ivern started becoming OP, he was one of the junglers that was willing to actually pick him up. There was a lot of junglers in Europe that just refused to pick Ivern, even though it was completely imbalanced. He was actually very good at just picking it up fast. Doing like his clear was very good compared to everyone else. Like he did a lot of research about how to actually pick it up, and then he was just good at it. Like it didn't take him long. So I think that's one of his strengths, where he can just like pick up champions very fast. Lazara was similar as well. Because it was kind of a new champion. And then he can also play all these champions very well mechanically. Like in fights, usually he has good just like understanding about how his champion works, what spells to use. I guess that's also, it has to do with him being a Viego one trick. When you play Viego, you kind of have to play every champ at least at a decent level. When you pick them up, you don't want to be first timing. So I think for sure that was his main strength. He was just very good mechanically. Like he would usually play out situations out very well. And he was just like always like very aggressive and down to follow up, even if I would like, have not the greatest engage. He was there to follow. I like that. We're in this together. He wouldn't just leave me out to try.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess that would be his main strengths, I would say. Yeah.
How about weaknesses? Like me and Dom also always say that Yike now, he was 2 years on G2, he was winning trophies, and for him to reach the next level, he needs to suffer. He needs to go to a team to suffer.
So, like, as a jungler, I feel like some like resentment. I'm like, oh man, his game is so easy. Like, he can make such big mistakes, and the game will just be recovered from other things. Like, I was actually crediting you a lot with this, where like I felt like you were playing the jungle role at points more than he was playing the jungle role, where he was just farming and you were like covering lanes and you were like hitting timings that you needed to hit. Do you think there's validity to this? Like, because my main concern with Yike, just all my cards on the table, I feel like he gets lost on the map sometimes. Like he doesn't know where to necessarily be, and he's kind of just listening to other people. It looks like he's reacting to like what he thinks other people are saying or what other people might be saying, as opposed to like setting plans and actually like understanding what he needs to do in multiple different game states. Like when the game breaks down and it's more active and like people are. When the game becomes more free-flowing, when a bunch of summoners are used, when the game just opens up like that.
I mean, I can see that for sure. Yeah, I think if I would have to point out, Yike's weakness probably be that he doesn't really have his own like. He doesn't want to lead the game by himself or like make his teammates play around him. He would kind of just adapt to what the team wants from him instead of just saying, "No, I can't do this," or like, "I want to do this instead." I mean, at the end, like when we play like Brand Zara, we kind of were better at that, or like we kind of made sure that he says what he wants to do. A lot of times with these junglers just want to full clear. That's why I was the one actually going around the lanes and pressuring while he was just farming. So if any junglers are wasting time, then my jungler's gonna get ahead pretty good. But yeah, I think when he's playing champions like I guess the ones with more CC that don't need to farm as much, he was maybe not the greatest at finding those angles or just like I guess knowing where to be. So yeah, I think that criticism would be valid. Yeah.
In a hypothetical world where he joined a team that was not as good as G2, and he had to make more of these decisions. Do you think it would benefit him? Do you think he needs to suffer in a way? Hypothetically,
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think he can do it for sure. I think he's good at adapting to his environment, or like he's like usually the byproduct of the environment. Is that what you say? Like, he just adapts usually, which I think is going to be good for him. Yeah, if there's a team that will not lead him around, then he has to take some responsibility.
Okay. He needs to go on the Mickey arc. He needs to go into the team, do the 1v1 talks, and push the team to review. He has to suffer a bit.
There's some like selfish jungler hate. Like I feel like junglers are kind of mentally ill like this. Like when I see misplays happen where I'm like, oh, you should lose the game there. Like, you just did this, like your game is over. Like, you just lost the game. And then you get to win the game anyway. Like, I get like salty. I'm like, no. He doesn't deserve to win this. He needs to lose these games, because that's like how I feel
that's
like
like every role, by the way.
your mistakes.
That's every role. Like every role thinks the same way when they watch someone else play their own role in like a better team, and they're like, oh, how does he get away with this? You know, if I was playing this, you know, in my team, we would just lose them. Everyone thinks like that.
Lose the game. Okay, nice.
Like,
So
I talked to a lot of AD carries, and they're like, am I playing in this team? We'll be World Finals right now.
Yeah, bro.
Similar.
Yeah,
I think sometimes as well. It's like
World Championship 2024. Big question I had. I don't know how much you can say, but you guys played 4 games of back-to-back Orianna Nocturne. You won one against Weibo. Fair play. It was a good spot to pick it, for sure. Even though I think there was a moment in the game where you guys didn't have TPs and it was very, very hard to pressure into the top side, and more Orianna's farm was kind of stifled when you guys couldn't like force on mid. What happened there? What can you tell us about the conviction? Because especially like the game 1 against Bidi Bidi, it seemed like you guys started the series 0-1 down because you commit to the Nocturne and gave a little Jack Scanner. So what can you share us about the prep and the planning surrounding this?
Well, I guess we were just very tunneled on how strong this combo was, because, well, I guess most teams were picking it very early throughout the group stages. I guess it kind of died down afterwards. So, you know, if you went any further, we would have probably won. But
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, we just thought it was very OP. So we had to either first pick it, or if they pick one of them, we have to pick the other one to like split the combo. Otherwise, it's too strong. Because a lot of times in scrims, people would just like walk up every mid wave, no matter what. They get Orianna or ulted. They might flash and die. They might just like die, and then you get a lead. Nice, free kill. And on stage, what happened was people picked champs that actually can't just get Orianna Nocturne combo for free. Like people picked like LeBlanc, Ari. I guess that's Karner as well. You don't want to re-ult him. Or like they had Jhin. Like Jhin, for example, could just like sit at his tower, press W on the wave whenever the minions were low, and doesn't have to walk up. And then there's a grouping mid waiting for him to walk up, and I'm like, oh shit, it's not walking up, guys. We're losing farm in side lanes, and yeah. Like even like in the Weibo game that we won, we're still afterwards discussing like we were really just overgrouping way too much, and we just need to actually play on side lanes. And I felt like we had some good ideas about how we want to actually use the combo. We just never actually did that in the following games. I've actually played it again. So yeah, that was a bit rough, but also the drafts didn't really allow us to use the combo as freely as usually in scrims. Like I think that the BLG game they also had like Kai'Sa and AD carry was a bit harder to go on. Like with Kai'Sa, LeBlanc,
Jax and some support Rel or some shit.
Yeah. No, I was
that's when you gave Skarner Jax.
I think they had Alistar.
Oh.
They had Alistar, yeah. So I mean that one was just like it was a rough one, yeah. That's all I can say.
So in that game, I remember like what my criticism of you guys was at this point was I felt like you guys were so addicted to the Nocturne Ori combo, like you refused to like play the champions like individually. Like I felt like there was times where it's like Ori should be playing Orianna and Nocturne should be playing Nocturne, and you don't need to like Nocturne Ori combo every single time if it's not there. Do you is this valid? What do you think about like this? Did you guys get too addicted to the combo?
That is a good theory you have, yeah. I could definitely see some validity in that one. Yeah.
Okay.
It felt the same, yeah. When we actually played the game, it felt like we're just grouping perma and try to do the combo, and then we don't find an opportunity, or they're not giving, they're not inting, so like, shit, now we just drop some waves, or like, and then we get like too desperate, so then we just have to use it because we're already grouped, so might as well do something, and then we just go in. So, yeah.
Mickey, I put you very, very high on my support tier list coming into the tournament because my expectations was higher than Keria. Because my expectations was it's going to be melee versus melee support, and I didn't think Keria played these situations good because I think T1 as a team, like in terms of how they function with jungle and support, I think that like their jungle just wants to perma farm no matter what he plays, and Keria just opens through mid, and then they solve this beautifully with like Pyke, Bard and Rakan because they can just cheat the game, right? It's like you can just enter spaces alone without any help. How crazy was I to put you third coming into the tournament?
Who was above me?
I put
On
On
and Delight.
and Delight above you.
Ooh. Nah, that's fine, yeah. I mean, I think it was not that crazy at the time because, well, T1 did come in fourth and didn't look particularly great, like none of their players. So I don't think it was a crazy thing to say at the time. And, well, when we played against as well against T1, I didn't feel like he was crazy. He was kind of just there. I didn't get to experience his Spike and Bart. And also, like, I feel like back in the day, like 2020, 2022, when I played against Keria, I felt like that guy was like so insane. And like, especially in scrims, he was like mega cocky, just like mega shitting on everyone. But I feel like nowadays, I kind of didn't have the same feeling when I played against him. He was kind of just like, either he was inting, or he was just like AFK. So, I mean, I would for sure like to play against him again when he plays his more, his champions. Because I guess I played against his Bard during MSI. That Bard game, he was kind of 1v9.
Yeah.
But yeah, against...
You think maybe just support role doesn't matter and you are just better than him?
No.
Okay. Trying to bait us on that, you almost got it.
The title.
Yeah, the title.
Mickey agrees. Better than Keria.
I am definitely better than Keria, Mikyx.
I mean, I think I can be, because I think he's not insane, but I think currently he is better, yeah. But that's also because I'm shit. So as long as I'm not shit, I'm gonna be better.
Ah, nice. So I feel like you're the type of guy. You're more like the type of guy where it's like everyone is kind of shit except for like a couple guys.
Yeah,
like most people are pretty bad.
Yeah, I can see that. That is how I think about people, because I don't know. I just feel like you need to be like if you want to be insane, you need to not make stupid mistakes. So, for example, the only player that I thought was mega insane was last year Ruler. I felt like this guy didn't make any mistakes like at any point. That was the only player that I ever thought like, wow, this guy is crazy. But I think this year there was actually no player that I felt like was like that. I felt like this year everyone was kind of just bad. And then, of course, everyone has good games and bad games, but no one was like only good games or like only insane games. Everyone had like a few ints here and there. That's why I didn't feel like anyone was insane. I mean, I think maybe Faker would kind of, go above that, especially with his recent performances. He was kind of 1v9. I wasn't expecting that, but yeah, he was kind of crazy.
So since we talked about Yamato having you over Keria, we could say that I had Faker. I did every player at Worlds. I ranked every single player at Worlds. I had him 42nd on my tier list going into Worlds.
That's crazy. How many Western players were above that?
Yeah, you were above that. Inspired was above that, and Caps was above that.
I mean, probably if you don't put Caps in Inspired there, I could see it. But
okay, yeah.
True. I mean, Faker did not have the best year, so it's not crazy to say that. Like,
I would argue his weakest ever.
For sure, yeah. Like, I was not expecting much going into this Worlds, but players like him, they can turn around. So it depends if the list is trying to predict how people are going to play or how they played until that point, which...
It was like 80% how people had played until that point. That's kind of how
I think it's completely legit,
Okay. So Mikyx says that he also would have had Faker 42nd on the list.
Yeah. So. I would.
Okay, perfect.
But then by the end of Worlds, I would put him number one.
Our name, bro.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it's fair enough. You're trying to. You're just like saying how people are played up to that point. If you do a tier list now, I'm sure Faker's number one because he was the GOAT this tournament.
Yep.
There's not much you can say.
He's always been the GOAT, but he became in GOAT mode. When you played against these teams at MSI, like how much did you feel like the skill is just better at MSI? Because for me, like when I'm watching this tournament, it feels like because everyone is scrimming and there's so many best of fives, like it feels like the teams are playing at a higher level. Do you feel like teams play at a higher level now at MSI than they do during Worlds, or do you think that this is just like it doesn't really matter? Maybe it's just meta or something like this.
I didn't really think about that, but thinking back on those games, it did feel like the games were a bit more, high quality. At least
feels like there's less
from my memory.
Almost.
Yeah.
Like less ints.
I guess, yeah. This World for sure felt like kind of low elo. Like the games that I was watching, I was like, wow, there's no way we lose to these teams, right? But then we were one of those teams as well, so we lost. But yeah, during MSI, it felt for sure that the teams were better. And even though like we lost some of the games, I mean, of course, looking back at it, we were pretty bad. Like the series we got 3-0'd. But like we still did some good stuff, even though we got 3-0'd. Like I felt like the early games we were actually doing well. We got some leads here and there. And then yeah, we just kind of got outplayed a lot of times during like team fights. I think that tournament was mostly just like getting mechanically outplayed. But I think at Worlds we were kind of just like shooting ourselves in the foot quite often before the fights could happen. I mean, I guess in the end against BLG we also got out team fought in the end. But even that, I'm not really sure, because even in the the fight that Ezreal was like going crazy, like Elk.
Yeah.
I was really watching that fight, and this guy hit maybe like 3 Qs in the whole fight. He was actually just auto-attacking us to death. It was crazy, because like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I didn't feel like we got outplayed, but yeah, whatever. Unlucky. We misplayed, I guess.
Unlucky indeed. Unlucky indeed. It supports at this Worlds. It's like beyond Keria, I felt like all of the players that I thought would be very good, considering like my point about melee supports coming into the year, like coming into Worlds, like Lehen's on. I think even Delight had a rough one. It's like all the supports that I rated super high coming into it, they didn't perform great. I feel like Keria was definitely like the standout when he was playing the champions that he played. What would you attribute this to? It's like, was it the year of Warmock's armor and being just a tanky motherfucker so you could do whatever you wanted? Or what would you attribute this, let's say, lower level of super play at the World Championship? Or am I just completely wrong as well? That's fine to say.
I mean, I'm not sure if I would attribute it to like a certain meta, like a Warmock's meta. And I still think that, for example, Delight, I think he had a good tournament. I feel like before, like it is group stage wise, when I was watching all the other games, I felt like Delight was playing the best out of everyone. And then of course afterwards, Keria was kind of smurfing. But up until that point, I felt like Delight was pretty good. And then as to why everyone was playing just badly, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, for sure the meta kind of changed from like these AP junglers. Yeah.
I have a theory. Do you think it's because the LEC studio is cursed? Because that's where you had that series versus Fnatic.
So.
Like and it just feels like there's something about being in Europe. It just like it just puts a weight on everything. Okay.
And that's why MSI was better, right? Because it wasn't there. So I can definitely see that theory working. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure, because I mean, when I was watching all the other regions before Worlds, I didn't feel like anyone was like insane either, I felt like everyone still had a lot of int moments. Like Lehen's, I think, had like a lot of grief moments. I think On as well. I guess again, Delight, I didn't feel like he had that many crazy ones. Crisp as well. Like when I was watching that final, what Crisp was doing, I was mind blown. This guy was crazy inting. But yeah, I'm not sure if anything changed, because I felt like the whole year was people inting. Okay. So I wasn't sure if it was world specific. But yeah, I feel like the Lighting Carrier had good tournaments at least.
Everyone is an inter.
Perfect. Pretty much, yeah. Everyone is trash.
We got to the bottom of it. Everyone is trash, including himself. So that's the difference between him and the double of quote. Everyone, everyone is trash. Period. There's no everyone else. Everyone is trash. Period.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's the fucking quote. Let's go.
Yeah. Beautiful. Mikyx, I think we will delve into the world of hypotheticals. This is what I'm thinking.
Lots of hypotheticals.
Not only hypotheticals. I guess we can start with the question that is not hypothetical. What is your opinion about Upset? You played against him last year, and you've played against him many moments. You like also in Champs Queue. What do you think about Upset as a player, and where would you rank him in terms of like his potential as a player? Because always it's so polarizing, the conversation. There's the KDA alert run away fast, like that meme I'm paraphrasing, or it's like, oh, he's the best AD, like the best team should get him. What are you doing? It's like very polarizing. How would you, of course, view the situation? I'm, of course, also biased, but I think Upset is really fucking good. Talk to us. What's your take on Upset as a player?
Yeah,
completely unbiased, of course, because you haven't played with him.
I mean, of course. Well, basically, from my perspective, I always thought he was very good, at least like top 3 in Europe. but he did always find a way to end up 9th or 10th somehow. So I always kind of like was very skeptical when deciding if I wanted to play with him, like, you know, in the previous years, because there were some opportunities here and there. But I feel like he matured in a sense, at least from talking to other people. And gameplay wise, I feel like he was not like, I mean, he sometimes does do like too little damage or like plays for KD a little bit, but it's also like when you're like losing the fight and the fight is lost, you don't need to just like get in there just to die as well, just to prove that you're not a KDA player. Because I feel like in Fnatic, at least, he had very good games where he actually just was the only reason that they actually won the games. I'm thinking all of the Zeri games, for example.
And their coaching, right, as well.
And the coach as well. Wait, did you have Shaves, right?
Yeah, Shaves.
Yeah, Shaves was kind of the goat that hurt.
I love Shaves. He can take all the credit in the world. I love him.
So, yeah, I mean, from my perspective, at least I thought he was always good, but there was always the concern about how he would be to work with, because there was always some criticism back then, and yeah, and then he always managed to end up like 9th or 10th, like Origin, Vitality, Schalke as well, maybe. I don't know. KC, I guess. Yeah. So the track was not quite there.
Schalke, he was going solid with Mr. Dylan Falcone. I think they reached playoffs twice, and they were chilling with Trick and
But I feel like, I feel like people look at placements way too much, because I think it was same with BB, for example. Like BB in Schalke, he was 10th place, but he was still like one of the best top laners, and then G2 picked him up, and wow, crazy, he's actually good. Whoa, even though he ended 10th in Schalke. So yeah, I feel like as long as you have a team around you that can make you succeed, I think it should be free win. And I guess
that's also...
Yeah, sorry.
Well, do you think that's also just because of the role that BB plays? Because top lane is like an isolated enough role where it feels like you can actually judge top laners against each other. I mean, before like 2v1s and stuff. Now, if your team is like horrible 2v1s, maybe you can't do it as much. But in the BB era, you could judge it. Whereas like if you're an AD carry and your support is boosted and you're playing with Keria, I mean, if you're playing with a jungler that's not amazing, it can be hard for the AD carry to really stand out. So like, do you think that's kind of role dependent as to like why you could like AD carries generally suffer more from?
I think so. Yeah.
I think you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I think for sure AD carries and supports both are dependent on each other a lot. That's why I also think Upset performed way better when he had like Healy, for example, because Healy is very good and he can make his AD carries, shine. And then I guess top lane is a bit more isolated. I think mid jungle are probably the only roles that you can kind of elevate your team with how good you are yourself compared to AD carry and top. I think supporting you probably still do like similarly as well. But yeah, I think for sure if you have a good team around you, you're probably just going to do way better. I think the main criticism for Upset comes from the Origin that was supposed to be like a super team. But then again, looking back at it, I think the only part of that super team that was like kind of super was maybe Alphari.
Yeah. I mean, he was playing with Destiny.
Throwing that out there. He had Mehle at the start.
It was our boy Cold, the jungle, right?
Yeah, it was Cold, yeah.
Yeah.
It was trashy, yeah.
Trashy.
He was coming out of UOL, I think, at that point. And I don't think he was considered like a super at that point, I think the part of the super was supposed to be Alphari, I think. Maybe I guess they had Patrick mid at the start, right? And then Nuke mid. So yeah.
Yep.
I feel like them and Intent was like for sure a surprise considering they went second for the first split, but still it was not like.
I will say, like, I feel like the narrative of it being like a 10th place is kind of like overrated in a sense, because that was the split where like everyone was like 1 or 2 games apart. Like it was like playoffs to being 10th place is like a 3-4 game stretch. So when they lost like the first game, they were like essentially already eliminated. So they were like, to me, it wasn't like a 10th place like the recent, 10th places that you see where it's like, oh, you're fucking 0-9 or some shit, or like the 1-8 vitality or whatever. Like I feel like those 10th places kind of like hit different because there was a lot of parity. That was the most competitive split of Europe ever, right? The 2020 summer.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I guess the only surprising 10th place finish or like 9th or whatever bad place was the Fidelity one. We had like Perks, Bow. I think that one they should have for sure done better.
Yeah.
So, that one I'm a bit curious about what happened there. But I think the K-Corp one wasn't too surprising. But yeah.
Really?
From my end, neither.
Oh, nice.
I have because for me, especially with that split system, like I was very upfront about the fact that we didn't practice much in November, December. The split comes with a lot of randomness. We're going to play Super Week after Super Week, and we have a lot of shit to solve.
Why didn't you tell me this before? I fucking made my tier list and I put you guys fifth. Like, what the hell, man?
Because it's like a projection, right? It's a projection, and coming into the first split, there's a lot of question marks. And the truth of it, at least the way I view it, is like the format is shit, but the way GMs view it is even worse, you know? Because in the end, it's like the only thing that really matters is how you use your time in Winter Split. If you're gonna fall apart and like break your brain over like BO1s that in the span of the year won't matter, then you're not in for a good time. I want to follow up on what you said because I can confirm that I do think that Upset has matured a lot. Like when I worked with him back in 2021 and 2022, I think that he's basically like a grinder. Like, he wants to solve every problem by playing more. Like, if the team is suffering, he thinks he can solve it by playing more. And I think that in the past, he would like stress himself super much about issues in the team, when sometimes doing less is more. And I think that working with him in KC, I think that he was a lot more fine with some things taking their own time. Like, let's say like your top lane or your jungler is like struggling with something. He would give his input and kind of let it be. Like in past times, he would just be like giga stressed over it, and I think that would just weigh so fucking heavy on him, you know. And it would like come out eventually when things got tougher. But I think it seems to me now, after working with him there for a very short stint in KC and also speaking to him frequently, that he's more at peace and focusing on what he's good at in terms of his lane, because already that is a massive responsibility, right? It's like you can't hope to puppeteer everything, because in the end, it's like you're playing your role, and what your team gives you is what you have to deal with in a lot of cases. You can look for impact, but sometimes players are not ready to receive. Sometimes things just take a little bit longer, for sure. So I agree with the sentiment that he has matured a lot.
I mean, I think now I've solved why the Vitality was 10th place. I think the reason, because now that you reminded me that in K-Corp he also had Bo, so maybe Bo and Ups are just like the 10th place machine. So as long as they're not played together, maybe he can do better.
Well, I mean, the Vitality, the last 3 games they played was actually with Douglas. So.
Oh yeah, true actually.
They 0-3 the final week with Douglas, so it just seemed like Upset is solely to blame, I guess. So.
I think that team had zero conviction. It's like opening game of summer. Kindred, Lucian, Milio, Gwen, Ari.
Yep.
What is going on? Lose one game, Maokai, Sejuani, Maokai.
Oh, man.
Bro, the Maokai game, do you guys remember the play? I think it was the final game Bo played with that Vitality team, where he flashes over the wall, the Maokai flashing over the wall, flash ult. Holy fuck, bro. Yeah. That's how I knew the team was cooked. That was the moment where he got benched for Douglas right there.
And he tweeted at some point, like, Maokai goes back in the jar or something like this. So every time he played Maokai and he lost, we went and look at that tweet.
And I'm pretty sure we got the infamous picture of Bo smoking afterwards. Like, where he's just outside.
How's it going?
Like, damn, what a fucking banger, man. What a banger.
Yeah, Mickey, you played against this Fnatic alteration for 1.5 years, right? It's like they got in Noah and Tromboner in summer last year that revived their whole year, and they got to Worlds in second place. In terms of how you viewed their problems and their faults, it's like always what we heard from outside is like, oh, they're doing so well in scrims, but they're just running it down on stage. What is your diagnosis for the issues of Fnatic of 2023 and 2024? How do you view this team?
It's a good question. I think, well, considering they get second very often, I think they just need to upgrade some role, and then they probably shoot up the first instantly.
Yeah.
So,
well, their bot lane was doing pretty well in a couple of those games, so maybe like, I don't know, like top lane jungle, something like this.
I think bot lane was like they just couldn't carry with the lead. Like I was trying to give them as much as they wanted, but they didn't want to carry.
Yeah. Okay.
You know,
That's fair.
maybe.
That's very charitable of you. I like that. It shows
He was
incredible
trying to save
person, yeah.
Europe in his own way.
Yeah. What can I
Nice.
say?
And now the series answer?
Well, yeah, actually, I'm not sure. Like, I think every time they got like leads, they just managed to throw them away. I guess their way of playing was always the same. I feel like they always just like push one side, base, go the other side, and then no matter what the game state was, that was the only thing they did. So I think that would be something that they should look at probably if they want to get better, to not just have like a one style of playing, but have a bit more adaptability, I guess. And then, yeah, that should help.
Okay.
Interesting. I have a question to ask you about something that I think came from one of your interviews where you talked about how you perceived your own play in 2023 and 2024 and how it was kind of the opposite of community perception. Like 2023, people are saying you're like the MVP of the league. People are saying that you're just one of the best players. And then this year, people were like flaming you a bit. People were saying like, "Oh, Mikyx is like fucking trolling. Like he's griefing. Whenever." And you've had the opposite opinion where you think that this year is actually a lot better than your 2023. Can you explain that a little bit? Because I think a lot of fans don't really understand why you view it like that.
I mean, I don't think I said it was better, but I did feel like it was not different or like a lot worse than my 2023 year. But I feel like in the 2023 year, throughout the whole year, so usually the MVP goes to the guy that's in the winning team most of the time. So I feel like in our team,
like video or something.
Yeah, I guess. So I feel like in our team, everyone had like a split or so where they were just like griefing it. I think like winter was maybe like BB griefing it, and spring was like Caps. And then for some reason people didn't like Hans, so they couldn't give it to him because of his NA time, I guess. And Yike was a rookie, so you can't give it to Yike. So they got rookie with split, that's good enough, There's no way a rookie can be MVP. So the only one left would be me. And people just, I guess, didn't see me int as often because I guess my team covered me in that regard. They were just inting a lot more than I was. So then in that sense, I was the best performing player because my ints were not as visible. Because usually when it's like carries inting, it's a lot more apparent when it happens. Or if you die in lane. That's also like why this year people thought I was just like way more shit because I died, in lane level 1, level 2, and I was in the finals against Fnatic. So that automatically made it like a shit year, where I can't really remember many more examples of like having really like stupid deaths like that. Like for sure I was dying a lot mid game as well, like that's just how playing support works sometimes. You try to go find like an opportunity or some point and then you just like die because people couldn't follow or it was like a bad idea or whatever. But I was doing the exact same thing the previous year. It's just that
I completely understand.
Were overshadowed.
Like over the course of this conversation, I completely understand now your mindset, because what other people see is like they're looking at your like Nautilus play from spring and winter, where you're just hitting these fucking crazy hooks and like you and Hans are just shitting on them, killing them over and over again. But you don't care about anything good that happens in the game. You only care about mistakes. You only care about like how many ints you had. Like that is like how you're judging it. Just the same way that you said before, you're like, oh, everyone's kind of shit. Like everyone is trash, but I'm trash too. It's like, this is just your mindset. You're only looking at the negatives. So like when other people are like, damn it, he hit this hook and they won this lane, they smashed him here, and they killed them here. Like you just
the thing is, landing a hook is not entirely up to me. It also depends on my opposition, like what the fuck they're doing. So like for example, one of the hooks I remember was like I think it was Jack Spectra. I hooked him in between a minion or something.
Yep.
But it's not like I did something crazy, I just like he was standing there AFK. I hooked him. I think he tried to dash and then he failed it. He got cancelled and died. Wow. I think because like they made this whole montage, right? I think the only good play in that montage was me doing the Milio Q on the Kai'Sa jump. Okay, that was kind of insane. Like and that one was actually intentional. That was actually intentional. Because I saw my thing was running out, like the W. So he had like a short window where he can ult and one-shot me when his W is up again. So I just kind of threw it randomly. Like I just threw it towards their team, but I was also expecting Kai'Sa to jump in at that point, and then he jumped into it. I was like, nice. But it was not like IQ for fun, Yeah. Like, I wasn't queuing like for fun, basically. Like, I wasn't aiming for like Maokai or something. I was just throwing it in their direction because I assumed Kai'Sa would go in. I didn't know he was gonna do exactly on that spot, but I was kind of just like, I guess it was just kind of instinct kind of a thing. But yeah, I think that was the only good play that was in that montage, and that's why it didn't feel as good, because I felt like if I would be deserving an MVP, it would probably be because I'm either like 2v2 killing people 24/7, or I'm like roaming the whole map and making some crazy shit happen. Like, I'm winning other lanes by myself or doing some crazy sick engages. I think there was none of that in 2023. So yeah, for me it just felt weird that the community's perception was that I was like insane, and then this year I was just shit. Because like I guess a lot of it also came from the Mad Lions series, where we're playing Mad Lions in the winter finals, and I'm walking. So enemy has 2 waves pushing towards them on side lanes, and they decide to go 3 or 4 people into our jungle on red side to go camp me when I'm trying to retake our jungle. They kill me, and then they lose in 2 waves on side lanes. I'm just watching these lanes. I'm like, I guess. And then are they gonna do Nash? No, they just base and go catch the waves that they already lost. Nice. I go base. I spawn. I go back, and then they're there again. I'm like, what the fuck? You guys don't like farming waves or what? And it's not like, if they would go and kill me and then use that to like get pressure, get Baron, whatever. Fair enough, that was a good play by them. But they just did it to drop waves. So for me, it was just like such a stupid play from them. But it just like looked into, because I was already like 0-2 or 0-3 at that point, because there was one time they ganked us bot, and then we survived, and then I hooked back in, and then I got flash queued by Alistar or whatever, and then I died. And I was like, sure, I got outplayed because Alistar Q flashed, but it's not like I ran it down on purpose. I tried to like push more, because so that's also another flaw I have, I guess. If enemy is making a play on me and I survive it, then in my mind, if I win on this play, then the game just absolutely ends right there, because they're losing this play they're going with, and they're losing on the other side, instead of it just being like, oh, they failed the play and then they back off. So I want to end the game right there. But then sometimes it happens that I grief, and then the game, I give him a kill. So yeah, that did happen, and that's like one of the plays where I felt like it was pretty grief. But at the same time, I don't think it was much different from like 2023. I'm sure I can go back there and find examples of the same thing happening, or like people just like look at KDAs and see like, oh, I had shit KDAs, and then go back and look at 2023 when I played like Nautilus. I think that was after we had our talk with Yamato. I went to check my KDAs in 2023. Pretty much the same shit. I guess this time I had more shit KDAs into a victory because of the Mad Lions series. But yeah.
What did you link them?
I linked one of the deaths that I know people were like freaking out at back from the winter split. Like, this is what,
that's the one, yeah. That's the one, yeah.
I feel like this is the one where like people just view this super heavily, because I think it is really what you said. Like, in lane, people care when supports die. They're like, oh, this guy inted. But like in the mid game, when supports just walk around the map, they just get caught for like no reason. People don't really care that much. Like, people don't really hold it against the support unless you're losing like a major objective off of it.
Yeah, but like here, it's also like a good Q by Alistar, because I think if he doesn't Q, because with Alistar versus Nautilus, you kind of have to Q before the hook even lands. So actually, he did it like mega last second. So if he doesn't do that, and he just hooks the tower, I just flash out, and then he'll get mega chunked, maybe even die, and then they just kind of fucked, because they wasted their time bot, and even lost out on the play, and we got ahead. But in the end, they, wasted real flash, they got a kill, whatever. But the lane is still good for us, It didn't actually change our lane. I gave him 300 gold, but at least I got real flash. So now top lane 1v9. So I did my job.
Okay.
Nice.
But yeah, for sure it was not a good play, but in my mind, I wanted to make something extra happen to end the game there. But yeah.
Just 2 things I wanted to add, because as you mentioned, like we already had that conversation. I feel like 2023, especially in terms of how you guys drafted, right? I think it just gave you so much agency, right? It's like always if you're pushing bot and winning bot, right, with your Varus and Ashe, and you're playing with Heimerdinger, you just had so many options. I remember especially like winter and spring. I think that like especially in winter, like you would like I remember that game where you played, I think it might have been like your Samira lane, and the Mad Lions played like the worst way possible, the Varus Braum, in terms of how they managed the wave. You guys killed them on gank, and then like you went top, you solved the BB's wave state, which was shit, and then you went mid, burnt a flash, and then you went back bot. Like you were just like drifting because you just had so much agency. I think that was like the big difference. And I do agree with Notions, like in terms of your teammates, I do think that you were the most consistent one. And I think like me and Dom, we've had this conversation many times about Hansama in particular. Like Hansama is very, very good, but his mistakes are so damn memorable that it's like really like warps the view, and it's very, very hard to go against, because it's usually like something like he can play great 90% of the time, and then those mistakes is like, damn, he just died on mid wave, gave Nash, and just like flashed on the spot, like shit like this, which was pretty crazy. Another thing is like we
LDR. LDR from thing. MSI, where it's like, please buy an LDR, brother, please. They have armor. Like,
yeah, I started to press tab a bit more after that.
Oh, shit. And it's like, we all mentioned that when you watch other players play your role and you're like, he gets away with this. I do think a global phenomenon though is that everyone looks at support and says he could just die like this and he can just play like this. This is a pro player. But I do think that the community has a very, very hard time of assessing how players need to assess risk real time. It's like in terms of like odds of them being there and recognizing what you gain when you get away with it. Because the amount of times you live and take the same risk, no one's going to look at. And I think that's where like judging supports becomes very, very hard for the community in particular in terms of like impact, because it's like you assessing that they based and assuming that they're going to go into side to farm, and then if you're going to wait for perfect information, you're going to practically be like a bot most of the time, especially when you play against like better players, right? So I do think that like support in terms of like the line between playing insane and like inting, so to speak, is very, very narrow, right? I think the community will never like assess this properly. It's like, oh, range supports, they don't die. Look, he's 0-1-23, played Lulu. He's insane.
Yeah. People tend to look at the minimap more, like when actually looking at games, and what people like every time someone gets a kill, just look at the map and see what's actually happening. Because it's a lot of times during Worlds, Western teams, they go like 4-man, one lane, they get a kill, nice, we're winning, and then you look at other lanes and they're just like losing like towers and shit and like farm, like nice. So behind the goal, like, oh my god, how are we losing? Crazy.
We're on the Western macro. It's like, I remember like Mike was against Genji, that happened too, right? It's like they went to kill Keen, he took the wave, and then they lose top turret, mid turret, gold swing, Then I think that like on the other side too, it's like in Europe, it's like Caps would push waves and he would push very, very deep. He would sometimes die, but it would be like, oh, they sent this many people to kill me. And I think this is just like an evolution of like assessing how many people are needed to kill you. Because I think in a lot of cases, like, oh guys, they are missing, we need to go back. It's like, no, let's use our spells, let's make them commit people, let's make them invest something into them having an impact. Because if you play that way, like, you're going to just perma lose against better teams for sure.
Yeah. There's definitely some games where I think the reason why, like Kadra had you really high, I had you really high, Yamato had you really high on tier list, is there's games that are just so memorable where I feel like you'll have like a tempo lead and you'll just win the whole game off like a tempo lead. Like there's like, for example, when you played against Fnatic in like grand finals of season finals, game 3. When you guys played against them game 3, this is like the game where you ended up like trading 1-for-1 and died on bot, but then you just like roam top, and like even though the play didn't work out because Yike missed all this.
That was so triggering. Actually, this whole scenario, I was thinking, wow, we are so fucking bad. There's no way. Like, I'm always there. It's always a good fight for us, but we managed to lose it. How the fuck is it possible? Like, the dive was misplayed, the top lane fight was misplayed, there was one more fight after, bot lane we misplayed. Like, I was like,
so every fight was misplayed, but when I looked at it, I'm like, oh my god, he's 1v9ing the game so fucking hard. Like, because I think about it from other people's perspective, it's like no one can play the game because you're just there first all the time. And even though the plays were like losing because people just mechanically misplayed every single situation you were in,
the
amount of like pressure you generated off of it, it's like you weren't even behind in the game because each play was on your timer. So like these are the types of things where I feel like people that are evaluating supports will be like, oh, this is why Mickey's insane right here. Like he's carrying that whole game. I really urge people, if they want to understand more about things that really impress like co-streamers and stuff like that, go watch Game 3 first 10 minutes versus Fnatic in finals, grand finals, season finals. Game 3, what were you? Were you on Rel or were you on Recon?
I was Rel, yeah. I was playing Rel.
You're Rel. Yeah, so you're playing Rel in this game, and like this was giga impressive. So I feel like that's something that people should just try to understand. And also just like tempo in general is something I feel like is not really understood. There was so many times where I remember like Whippo, for example, being really intelligent about this. Like he would have some int moments, but it was like, this guy's like winning you the game. Like if he gets this wave and dies, it is like borderline game winning. So I feel like that's one of the hardest points to bridge to the community, because it's just like not obvious. It's something that unless you're really thinking about the game, it's like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Oh, he just entered, you know?
But yeah, and I also think, I mean, for that play, I feel like there's no real other place I need to be than top lane. Because after I die, our bot plays over. They have a slow push towards us, so I have mega time. And top is wave is fucked or whatever, so there's the only place I can go. So like if there's another support that would not do that, I think they're just trolling. So for me, it was like, it's not like an
once again, everyone's just bad.
Yeah, it's true, yeah. Like if someone does do that, then they're just not actually thinking about the game, you know, they're just happy. So, because a lot of people maybe just go through mid, I guess, because that's usually the norm. But also, you kind of have to rely on your top laner to, you know, tell you what he needs. Like, I assume BB was probably saying, oh yeah, my way is fucked, I need help or whatever. So I was like, oh yeah, I have time. So then I just go
Was there a specific moment where you became like way better at understanding the game like this? Because I remember like in your early career, you're just kind of like a laning support. You know, like that's kind of how I viewed you, is you were just the guy that was really insane in lane. You just like hit all your skill shots. You were mechanically better than other supports. Like, was there a moment where you just started like where you had a breakthrough when it comes to these game concept understandings?
I don't really think so. I think for most players, a lot of how they play comes from how they learn the game at the beginning. So I feel like most of my knowledge is from actually 2016, from Splice, or like 2017, when I got taught how to play the game. I mean, I guess also everyone has their own perception of how the game should be played, or like how you can be more impactful or more useful. So everyone kind of goes their own way to evolve. But I feel like most of my knowledge came from there and learning from other people.
Yamato taught you everything you know? Okay, never mind.
Yeah, I mean, no. I think Yamato was probably the big reason about like, at least of how I started playing the game. Because back then I actually had zero clue about anything. Like I talked to Mithy every now and again, because that was when I just started becoming pro. So I talked to him a bit about just how to play the game, I guess, as a sport. But most of that stuff I learned from Yamato about like tempo and such. And then I just kind of kept thinking about it, I guess. And throughout the years, I, just wanted to find ways to be useful on the map. So if I can't be useful bot lane because the wave is bouncing, then I'll probably be somewhere else. I don't think there was like a specific time or like a point in time where I had this mindset switch throughout the years. Like for sure, back in the day, I also thought one of my strengths was like, just laning. I think I was very good at knowing the matchups or like playing them well. But I feel like nowadays everyone is much better at that. So there's no like hard punish in lane. I mean, some people don't count minions, sometimes, so they might die.
Yeah, but, level 2 is level 2 is a tricky thing. You never know when the enemy's gonna get it.
Never know. You never know. So
it's a mystery.
But
it's like a box of chocolates, huh?
I guess. I mean, I guess just how waves work in general, or like, when the wave is gonna bounce, or like when I need to be there and all that. I think the most of that I learned in 2021, playing with Rekkles. I think he was good at telling me when he needs me or how the wave is gonna be, or like all that. And also, I guess part of the reason was that I was just my job was to be playing around caps. So yeah, I guess that was one of the moments where I just started to do that a lot more. And I guess another one was in Excel. At some point, I felt like I was so fucking bad. I don't know. I actually forgot how to play the game. Every game I just felt so useless. So then I was watching Yonhoon, and Yonhoon was playing like Bard and 1v9 games by himself. And then I went to watch his VODs. And then I kind of got some more ideas of how I actually want to play, because I feel like back then I was just playing like on autopilot, where I just like, okay, I got a base, I put my 3 wards, I base again. Put my 3 wards down, I base again. But this guy was actually pressuring the map and making shit happen. He was with like catching people off on sides and all that, playing around the waves actually. I feel like I was actually just brain AFK. Like I'm not sure what I was doing, but I was basically in like a mega slump. So I actually just forgot how to play League of Legends. So that kind of helped me as well at that point to, try to actually win games, because I felt like that was a thing that I used to be good at back in the day. Like when I joined Splice, for example, I was kind of the guy that played Bard and tried to make shit happen. So, I see a champion, I want to go kill him. But yeah, I think the more I played, the more I got into like, oh yeah, if this guy ends, maybe I can kill him, but it's not guaranteed. So I'll just put my wards down and base and all that stuff. And then I feel like I got kind of stuck in that way for a while. But yeah.
I can add as well, because back then dynamic queue was a thing, and that's where like I met Mickey for the first time, because I was playing dynamic queue. It was like me and Kobe would play bot lane, but then like we found Mickey. Then I went and played mid lane. Back then, like I was actually like I was decent at the game, and we played with Spirit. And the main thing that was so insane about Mickey, which like I was like, we need to get this guy. I felt bad because I joined Meet Your Makers, I benched Nisbet. I joined Splice, I benched Nisbet, and he's such a good dude. I just benched him twice after he was on the team and I came into the team.
That's fucked up, actually.
But it's like you would absorb things like a damn sponge, Like I think what was the most impressive about you is like, oh Mickey, you should do this if this happens. We're like, okay. And the next game you would just do it, and then you would just do it forever. Like you would just absorb things super, super easy. And it just seems, it's good that you went through the phases, especially of like, you mentioned how you absorb things over in G2 and you try to apply that. I think that's something that's so crucial, because like the game is developing and you need to develop with it in real time. And there's like a clear like sentiment of growth throughout your career. Because I think if you don't grow in this line of work, you're just going to die and wither away, very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Do you still have the same love for the game? Do you still love League of Legends the same way you did back in 2016? Do you enjoy it?
I mean, nowadays, I feel. Yeah, dude. Nowadays, I feel like my love for the game comes more if I win. If I'm winning, okay. I like it. If I'm losing, maybe not so much. But back in the day, I was kind of just like playing some random shit, like it doesn't matter. I mean, of course, it sucked to lose, but at least I could just play whatever I wanted, however I wanted, and just had some fun. I feel like also high elo was a lot more fun back in the day just to play, because you would meet the same people all the time, people just like bantering in all chat all the time, or just like, I don't know, it was just a lot more enjoyable because there was not so many new people that have an ego for reaching high elo for the first time in their lives. Like back in the day, when I reached high elo, I was like, oh my god, I'm playing against so many good players. I need to like perform. I need to behave. I need to like, give a good first impression. But nowadays, I just get like flamed by like a random 50 rune% bastard. Like I just can't take it.
Like how can I focus? The most base thing that's ever been said. True.
Yeah, very true,
like,
bro.
These kids nowadays are too disrespectful.
Exactly. Respect your fucking elders, bro.
100%. Bro, I was print screening when I was solo killing the boys.
Yeah.
Like, when I solo killed like Spectre back in season 1, I print screen. I put that on my Facebook.
I was print screening when I was just playing with someone. I think I was playing against, I don't even remember what the team was. There was this team that went to Worlds, completely random team. I think they were from Poland. They had like an orange logo. I think.
Gaming Gear EU? Gaming Gear EU.
Yes. One of their players, I forgot his name even. I think it was a top laner or a mid laner. But I played a game with him, and I had to screenshot it, and that was my first ever pro player I played with. And second one was Wicked. I screenshotted it, put it in my folder of the pro players I played with. Yeah, and at some point I played with like Ken Panda and Tabs, and then they started playing duo EQ with me, and that's kind of how I got more into high-low and like talking to people. That was fun.
Nice.
Do you think a lot of that had to do with the fact that you used to be able to duo in high ranks? Because it felt like that, like when I used to play the game, I remember just like, there was just certain duos that you'd see and you'd be like, oh, fuck, this is going to be like such a hard game. Like the big one on NA was always the Rush Hour bot lane, bro. Afro move double lift. When they would get into games, it's like, I better shit on this jungler so impossibly hard or the game is like lost. Because you just start the game level 2, kill, level 3, kill, level 4, kill. Like you just be like, all right, my bot lane is just solo lost this one.
So I think it was just like very fun, yeah.
Yeah, damn. Well,
I was just playing duo with everyone. I guess Dynamic was also a bit of a fun one.
Yeah. It's weird how I think a big part of what has ruined everything. There were so many events that fucked up the MMR of everything, and there's so many people that climb and they get stuck due to how high their MMR is. There's so many like high elo tourists, that just stuck around for a long time and just kind of ruined the experience. Because back in my day, like when I played season 1, 2, 3, I played with the same 200, 300 players perma. There was like the same guys, like everyone respected each other. We would flame each other, but like everyone tried to win. People were in TeamSpeak servers, grinding out. And now it's like you have like some guy that like spammed Jana to get rank 1, and now he's just there, He's just there forever because like MMR has just, he's just in the fold,
Yeah, I mean, there's. I feel like the thing about, I 100% agree with this point. I think that when you look at the fact that there's never been a full reset, you only get soft resets. I feel like that's been something that's been really bad for the ladder, because there has been just ladder abuses that have happened. Like there was the dodging perma when you're when you're in your promos before you get into master. So you dodge perma and you duo Q and you inflate your MMR so high, and then you just tick over, go 50% win rate, and then just be rank 1 because you'd be gaining like 400, or like you'd gain like 400 LP a day and stuff like that. There was issues when it came to like new accounts. Like new account MMR was fucked by normal games. I don't know if you guys remember this, where you would used to be able to like win your normal games, and if you won like 20, 30 normal games in a row when you started playing ranked, your MMR would be fucking crazy, and you just go 50% win rate again, and you get to the top of the ladder. Those times where, like, I think in EU there was a bunch of problems with like somebody getting too high rank on the ladder, and then like all of your games would be fucked. Like the whole
Felix.
Imagine Felix literally just killed the fucking ladder because of this. I mean, this just goes to the point where I feel like one of the things that would help League a lot, I think, would be a full reset at some point. Like, I'm not saying do it every year, but So when it does turn out that there was a massive ladder abuse that many people used, I feel like it kind of ruins the integrity of the ladder going forward.
Like transferring. A lot of people transfer their accounts back and forth, and then there's resets.
There was even bugs, right? It was like LP gains bugs. Like I remember, I think it was 2019 at the beginning of I believe it was like beginning of the summer season. I believe, if I'm correct. Maybe no, it was beginning of the year, because it was just 1 year right back then. And I remember like LP games were like you would win like 25, lose 15, and everyone had that. So if you just grinded games in the first 2 weeks, you were just set. But I think like on Riot's side, why they're so scared of doing like a full reset is that I think that players that play ranked, the average casual homie, they want to have like the illusion of progression.
Getting better, yeah.
Because like if they like play one season and they think they are diamond, and the next split they're like gold, that is so that removes them from the illusion of improvement, when in reality, for sure, in most cases they have like gotten worse or not at all, and they're just in that elo because of MMR. But I think over time it will, like, you will reach a point like now where solo queue is kind of like devalued from what it's supposed to be because of all these problems. So the top percentage is always suffering.
I think that like that kind of makes sense to me, but then the other side of the coin is like, if people want that, then why do they have 3 ranked splits? Because I feel like 3 ranked splits is like the opposite of that, where you just like everyone just feels like they lose their game. It feels like if you're a casual player, or even if you don't have that much time, like for example, for me personally, like in the first, I don't even know what the fucking splits are called, but in the first split, I got challenger, and in the second split where like playoffs is happening and MSI and all this stuff, I just didn't have as much time to play as I did in the early part of the split, and it felt like I spent the whole split just like grinding my account back to like the MMR that I was at before, like grinding myself back to like the LP I was at before. It felt impossible to progress. So I feel like that is one of the things that kind of sucks about the game now, is if you are a casual player, it feels like unless you want to like no life League 24/7, it's very hard to get to your rank in the short amount of time between splits.
I think to play devil's advocate there, because I think from Riot side, probably like a new split is probably like a very easy advertisement vehicle where people get the illusion of starting from the same point somehow. Because I think that if you start like late into a season, maybe you're playing like catch up. It's like now, like I'm playing a lot of flex queue. I enjoy playing flex queue. Like right now, I'm like 500 LP, and then I look at the guy who is rank 1. He's like 2.2k LP, and he's abusing the ladder. He's also fucking it up. He's like playing one account with 4 emerald accounts, and then you just like queue in the middle of the night to play against like complete randoms. Nevertheless, this is just my lamentation and my pain about flex. But even in that sense, it's like the do-over. I think they just use it as like a vehicle of like advertisement, because I'm sure in the metrics there's probably like a surge of players when a new season starts. It's like, wow, this is a new season, exciting, new shit. But in reality, it's just like fugazi, you know. It's it's a bit of an illusion, because you play 5 placements and then you kind of back up to speed, in a sense. That's how I imagine it. Speaking of riot changes, like we approaching now 2 hours and 15 minutes. I wanted to bring up the subject because I don't think we ever talked about it, Dom. So I figured with Mickey it's perfect to talk about. The LEC format is changing coming into the next year. Just to loop everybody in that is listening, is that basically the first split is going to be the same one, winter split, 3 weeks of best of ones, and then moving into the same playoff system, but with fearless draft, hard fearless through and through. But it's best of 3s and then best of 5s in the later stages. The spring split is basically single round robin best of 3s that happens over a longer period of time, I believe 7 weeks, and then a playoffs with top 6, very similar to what we saw in the past, or similar to what we had in the LCS in summer. And then finally, we have group stages where that's going to be the qualification for Worlds. 2 groups based on seeding in spring. And then there's going to be, I believe, top 6 qualify with crossover to play for the final spots. And then these teams will then play a playoff bracket for, of course, going to the World Championship with no regional finals, no championship points. What are you guys' take on this format change? What do you guys think coming into next year of LEC? You want to go first, Mickey?
Sure, yeah. Well, for me at least, the fearless draft is the most exciting thing for, next year.
And the BO1s? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, well, BO1s are just like an obstacle to get there. It's like, it's fine. It's just a stepping stone for the reward that is going to be the fearless draft. Because I feel like, that's when you can really see what players are like, not like one tricks, I guess, but they're more like proficient in many different styles, because I think that's one of my strengths. So I'm kind of looking forward to that mostly. I think it's also cool that they're gonna do the same thing as LCS, where we play on the same patch as the live patch. I think they're gonna also do that. So that's pretty interesting, because I feel like playing on the same patch for a long period of time can get a bit annoying, because then solo queue becomes more useful, especially if they do big changes. And I feel like adaptability, especially if the patch comes out like maybe one or like a few days before the stage game, is gonna be a bit more fun. I feel like there's gonna be a few more random picks than just like the same practiced over and over like stuff. So yeah, overall I like that. And then I think in the other splits like summer and spring, I think there's also more games in total.
Yeah,
which I think is pretty nice as well. I think more games is always nice.
Okay, what are you thinking, Dom?
Yeah. I think that when I look at it, I'd have to be reminded of exactly what it is, but it felt like there was like a long period there when there's just the round robin best of 3s, where I feel like that might just take forever. So I'm a little bit worried about that portion of it. I think winter will be fine with the fearless, and I like that there's no season finals anymore. In terms of format, I think it's fine. I guess we have to see how it will play out, but I'm pretty interested to see like the road shows, like the increase in the teams having their own arenas or whatever, and having games outside of the LEC. I feel like that might be really nice to increase hype, because I mean, I remember, for example, I don't even watch LFL, but when LFL was having their like KC events and stuff, I would even tune into those, and I'd be like, oh, this is actually sick. Like the crowd's there, it's hype. And I think that's good for the players, because one of the things that I liked as a player when I competed was just like getting out of because I got to play in the season 2, the open circuit, and then also I got to play in the LCS. And when you play in that LCS like week to week, when you have the 9 best of 1s, at some point it feels like scrims in a way. Like it doesn't feel like you're nervous anymore. You're like that excited to play. It just feels very routine. Whereas when you play in a different location, I feel like that's the experiences that are really memorable. I mean, what I always say is the first year of my career was more memorable because of like all the different tournaments I played in and, you know, like getting to go to Korea, whatever. It was more memorable than like the rest of my career combined. Like the next 3.5 years combined was, I feel like I've like when I go and I think back, I feel like that was even a shorter amount of time than the first year because of the fact that we were traveling so much. And I think it's one of the things that I think esports players want to do when they get into it, like travel the world and play video games in front of crowds. Like that's huge. So hopefully that goes well. I think that's the thing that I'm most excited about.
Yeah, for sure. Same for me. I was very lucky that my first game as a player was in an arena with 12,000 players. It was like a regular season game. We play against Moscow 5. We had a Steel City sponsor, so I had to borrow Xpec's gaming gear, which was awful. Just first timing with gear on stage. But I solo killed Alex Ish and we lost the game. So it was like, it was cool. But like the arena was made out of wood. It was like thunderous, and definitely, I think both for the crowd and also for the player, like this is so insanely memorable. It was kind of crazy how Riot was like willing to spend. It's like, oh, we're going to this location, we're going here, and we are set up in a 5-star hotel, eating like, you know, chocolate, a chocolate fountain, eating fruit. You know, like it was like one of those first crazy experiences, because like the other lands were just like complete trash. It's like I would like sleep in a hostel, you know, play at like Berlin campus party. It was like a IT festival, and they put us in the corner, and we're just playing there. It's like such a change up, you know. In regards to the format, the main thing, I hate the BO1s. I feel like the tournament system that LCK had sounds like a lot more interesting, because then like you just roll out fearless draft right away, because it's like going to practice non-fearless for 3 weeks, and some teams are going to be like super tense and super stressed. Like I would even be down if they made it so brutal that if you played one BO1 with certain champs, you can't play the next one. Then it would be like in the week practice.
That'd be cool, actually. I like that. I like that.
You're playing your 9th game. You have 45 champions out. You're playing the goofiest shit ever. I think that would be like sick as fuck, you know? Because at least like the practice would also be like, okay, we played these 3 champions in each role last week. Now we have to practice different, but it's going to be a lot of the same. And then also, like, I think regional points, I think they were used very, very bad in Europe, because the championship points get like a bad rep because they were used like shit in Europe. But I would be very happy just to give, you know, credit to just all of the splits. I would be very, very happy if the 3rd slot for the World Championship would just be like a bracket, you know, with the teams that are left. Like, let's say 2 teams go all the way to the finals, and I think it would just create like a safety net for the 3rd slot, kind of like how LPL do it in a way where 2 teams qualify, 1 of points, 1 of winning, and then there's a safety net where the teams have to face each other to qualify, because I think there's a chance that teams could qualify without facing their competition. Like Mad Lions just beat G2 once, and then we never got to see BDS versus Mad. And I think that can be like the only danger for me, especially if the groups are just like, let's say they're unbalanced because Spring went to shit for some teams, and then they make roster changes, or, you know, that happens spring between summer. That's usually where roster changes can happen, and strength of teams can differ, especially if we look at like this year. It's like this year, like KC was competitive in summer after having like 2 very, very bad splits, right? And things can definitely like change, and there's a world where groups are like imbalanced, and I think that can be dangerous too for the qualification of the World Championship. I'm excited about Fearless and excited about the best of 3s in spring too. I believe it's 7 weeks of single round robin, so it can get boring maybe, but I don't mind. We can just skip the boring days, you know, when Rogue and L2 play against Team Heretics or some shit.
Wasn't it made like that back in the day, like 2016, 17? We had like regional qualifier or whatever, like Gauntlet, and then you know, it was not back in the day. Okay. Yeah, that was pretty fun. Yeah, I like that.
I think
we made it with Splice over there.
Yeah.
All I want, one thing that I'm happy about with LCS or the new LTA North is relegation, bro. Like the relegation spot for the guest team from tier 2. I feel like that's super hype, bro. I want to see people lose their jobs live. You know, like that is something that is just that is like content right there, baby. Like.
I'm gonna tune in for that as well. Actually, that sounds hype.
I wish we had that too in LEC, but at least I would have to say everything else about the LTA format I think is garbage. So I'm not hyped about the other details.
The LTA format is horrible, man. Like there's pretty much the way it works is there's one team guaranteed from both conferences. So like if you look at the final like thing for Worlds, there's one team guaranteed to go to Worlds from both conferences. So you just have like 2 best of 5s to win Worlds for one of the teams, like or to win the split. I mean, for one of the teams, you play once where you're like, if you win your domestic bracket or whatever, you are in a best of 5 versus the winner of the South Conference, so North Conference versus South Conference. Winner of that is automatically in grand finals. The lowest you can get is 3rd. So like you can't end up with a situation where one team gets all 3 spots. I think it's going to be really shit in terms of that. There's it's pretty sad. But yeah, one thing that we didn't really touch on that I just want to ask before, maybe this will be like the final question, is this year there was a lot of like doom about LEC. There was doomsaying about LEC. I was one of the people that was like I thought G2 was good, and then I thought everyone else was like complete shit. You know, I was like, oh man, this region is like probably the worst it's been. Did it feel like this from your perspective? Like, did you feel like the region was weaker than before? Or how did you feel about the overall level of this year compared to previous years?
I mean, I did feel like Europe was weaker than previous years, but I also felt like that towards every other region in the world. I think everyone was so bad this year. Like
okay.
Like when I was watching the finals of LPL and LCK, I was just like thinking, wow, we can actually win, you know? And I even think that this year was a very good chance of actually winning. So it feels like a very big wasted opportunity because, well, everything just kind of went to shit at the end. But yeah, I mean, I agree with that. The level was pretty low, but I also think the level in the other regions was also pretty low. So,
do you think it's because of like why do you think that is? Do you think it's because of like void grubs being introduced and like 2v1s and people just having to learn more shit as opposed to like where the game was kind of more understood in previous years?
I mean, it could be, yeah, but that could be a bit of a thing because this is the new map, right? Before people played the same map for like many years. Now it's like a bit new, so there's a bit more stuff to think about now that you need to adapt. So there's less focus going on other things. I think other than that, I'm not sure. Besides that, yeah, I think that could be a big one. But yeah, just watching leagues, just like I don't know, just everything just looked like pathetic. That there was no team that was like just doing everything well. Everyone just had to make something completely stupid in their games, and the games was very back and forth a lot of times because of that. So yeah,
I'm actually happy that you felt like that because I had a similar feeling, but I just didn't know if it's just me being like old and jaded and just being like, oh, I just hate everything now. Like, do I just like hate the game? Like, what's going on? Or like, why am I like making so many more mistakes? I don't know. It makes me feel less crazy at least.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe it's also because I was worse at the game before, so I didn't actually notice that many things. But I feel like now I'm a lot more knowledgeable about how the game should be played. So when someone does something different, then it's easier to notice and be like, wow, that's so fucking stupid. And well, I guess big credit from that goes to Duff that actually taught us a bit of that, because last year at Worlds, I felt like we were good, like I was like, wow, how could we lose in groups? That we were so good. But then rewatching the games now, we actually had no idea how to play mid game. It was like so crazy. Like side lanes did not exist for us. Just like go snowball early game in 5 minutes or FF. That was our game plan. So yeah, at the moment it felt bad, and I felt like every other team was just like so good. But then rewatching it, we were actually just like bronze. So at least now I could see other people also being bronze. Before that I couldn't see it. So yeah.
Based. Well, if there's nothing else that you have, Mickey, if there's nothing that you want to ask us, we just end the episode here. Normally we open it up to the guests, but I feel like we've covered almost everything, bro. This has been a 2.5 hour episode. So if you're good to end it here, so are we. You have anything else? Perfect.
No, I need to go toilet.
Yeah, all right. He needs to go toilet. I like how I just did that, like the anything else trash cam meme where it's just me fucking pointing the mic. Like it was yeah, that was a great way to end it. Just patronize our guests at the end. So perfect. We'll let Mikyx go to the toilet. Thank you for watching this episode of The Sackdown, and we'll be back next week for another banger.